Welcome to another episode of Unresolved Textual Tension. My scatterbrained name is Erin, and I am joined today by my lovely co-host Katie, who's either
Yes.
here or there.
Yeah, it depends, I guess. I don't know. I'm this way if you go far enough and it comes back. Dang it. This way if you go far enough and it finally comes back this way. There we go. I can't even use both hands at the same time today. That's where I'm at. So anyway, today, Elin, what are we going to be talking about?
We we have been reading a book called The Buffalo Hunter by Stephan Graham Jones, the author of the same book we read a while ago called The Only Good Indians. And I am afraid that I am going to subject you to my unhinged rantings about this book because I have absolutely no chill.
I'm so curious as to what level of ranting we're going to get and in what tone. I'm assuming positive. Before we get into it, though, can you give me a little background on what was it called? The Only Good Indian?
The only good Indian.
Yes.
It's from the whole adage that the only good Indian is a dead Indian.
Yes.
Yeah.
So is that
Um,
one also supernatural in tone? It's because, spoilers, guys, this one may or may not have some supernatural elements to it. Wait, were you saying yes? I was it's too blacked out with my finger guns.
no, you're absolutely right. I think all he writes is supernatural horror.
Oh,
I don't
really?
actually know. This is only the second book of his I've read, and he's apparently published a whole lot of them.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw the book Mongrel in the front cover of it, and I was like, "Ooh, is this like a werewolf thing? Because it's like got a dog on the front, or is it like some different version of that?" So with the supernatural element, real quick, for the other one, how is it different from this book? Just out of curiosity, or is it the
Mostly,
same?
this one is quite unique from the other one because this one is I will say 75%, but if we're talking meat of the substance of the story, I'd say 90% of this book is historical fantasy fiction,
Hmm.
whereas The Only Good Indians is like current day, sort of.
Got it.
Yeah.
Understood.
And Stephen Graham Jones is. I actually picked up his first book not knowing that he is Native American. I
Hmm.
was fooled by the name. And it has later come to me to understand that he writes a lot about his own culture,
Yeah.
but in both like a historical and modern context, and then mixes it with horror, and it's just really my beat.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of Manila Noir is a anthology series for, I believe, if I remember correctly, the Philippines, and it is very much like this, where a lot of the authors would mix like contemporary things, but with a historical folklore aspect and make it into horror, but as some type of statement regarding their upbringing or like some type of erasure or some type of like generational pain that's been passed down.
Yeah, I can't actually pinpoint which book it is, but it strongly reminds me of something. But it's definitely a historical fiction where someone is kind of retelling their life story, and it's really dramatic and dark and sad, and it's given all the more weight because of that anchoring in true history.
Yeah, that's the one nice thing I like about like historical fiction is that because it has it kind of creates like a legendary awe. You know what I mean? It's because it did happen. So there is real sorrow. And just because a story's made up doesn't mean it can't carry with it the weight of real sorrow. But when it's something that was tangible at some point, it has like a certain flair to it, like you said. I really enjoyed that the most of this. And I have to say, I'm actually very glad. At first, I kind of wished I had gotten the physical copy of the book. It's because I've been trying to go back to physical copies for that. We've discussed this before where the experience is different. So I'm trying to like go back to that experience exclusively. But I'm really glad I listened to the audiobook for this because holy hell, is it really, really well done.
It is. It really is. I especially like Good Stab's audio narrator, but both of them are really fun, and both of them really infuse the characters with a personality that I think wouldn't entirely have come through if you just read the book narrated, like the book
Also,
written.
the towards the end of the book, there are these like scenes that are supposed to be recordings, like audio recordings of
Oh
one of the
yeah,
narrators, and in the audiobook it's like a live play, a live action, so you hear the wind in the background or you hear the things in the background. I almost wish they played more into it for the kitchen scene, or like the apartment scenes. It's because I feel like some of the sounds that like were being given off in the background could have been even creepier and like added to it, because I really liked the wind blowing into the mic later on when we're outside. And I kept thinking to myself, man, this would fall so flat in comparison in the book. It's
yeah,
because of the medium change.
yeah. If I think the almost radio theater aspect of that
Yeah.
last bit was about the only thing that could have made me feel interested in that bit of the book at this point.
Yes.
Like, we're gonna talk about it when we get there, but there is a very stark narrative break after what feels like the kind of climax of the story, and suddenly you're kind of yanked to a different place with a different person, and you're like, okay.
Do you see our backseat driver trying to backseat drive?
uh, I'm used to it.
Oh my God. Poor you. Bless you.
I have adapted that habit of many a successful woman of
In one ear, out the other.
yeah, and kind of filtering what I see and what I don't see.
Yeah, fair enough. I still have not acquired that. That's an art form I don't know if I'll ever be able to partake in. But with that being said, we will do what William suggests, which is do the premise. All right, Elin, shall we do the premise? I'll let you go.
Oof, let me rub my two brain cells together really
If you
hard.
want me to, though, I can. I'm just giving you, like I said, the reins, if you will.
Okay, so if I were to sell this story to you, I would say that
Sell it to
we
me.
meet a Lutheran pastor. I think he's Lutheran. Yeah, he's Lutheran.
Mhm.
A Lutheran pastor in Montana. The year is 1912. And he is an old man who has been through some things and seen a lot. And he came to the priesthood late in his years. And now he thrives in talking to his flock and eating cake. And he delights in how uneventful his life has become. And then one day, in the midst of the ceremony, opens the church doors, and in steps a weird Indian wearing a long black priest's robe
And
and
sunglasses.
with yeah, blackout sunglasses. And the pastor is like, what could have brought this savage to my church? But since I am a cultured man of the world, and I find a purely intellectual interest in savages, I do think it's rather delightful that he's come here. And it turns out that this Indian has come to talk to the pastor. He has a confession the pastor must hear. And so begins a litany of dark events.
Yes, and while this is happening, and we're getting the narrative both from this pastor as well as the story that this Indian is telling him, we also have a more contemporary counterpart, which is the great, not that many greats, but some on great granddaughter of the pastor. And the premise to this whole thing is that lo and behold, she is an academic and she has stumbled across something that could get her tenure, which is a discovery of an ancestral tome. It is a journal, and it was found in basically like, in Montana or whatever. It was like in a wall, and it was like it was wrapped up in like buffalo skin. I think, as if I recall correctly now. And so when that came out, she's like, I'm going to use this to write a book, and my book's going to get me tenure. And that way I can finally be just like my father and teach at a college and actually have like that experience he wanted me to do, because I didn't go into the sciences. I went into literature instead. A tale as old as time. And so as she reads through the journal, and as the journal gives us information of this confession, we learned that the world is not exactly what we're expecting it to be.
Mm-hmm. She was like, "Here I have found a testimony of history, and I can use it to propel my career forward." And the more and more the history veers into the bizarre, the more she's like, "This is absolutely useless and I'm fucked."
Yeah. Well, not just that. She also starts going down the path of, oh, am I cursed in some way? Am I cursed with this knowledge as well as the other ancestral accoutrements that come with it? So that is our premise. And if you're wondering, yes, it is a horror book. The genre is horror. It is supernatural. It does a really good job balancing. If you go in blind and you have no idea what you're reading, which is what, besides knowing the genre, that's what I went into. But I did not know there was any supernatural element to it. So when it started transferring, I was like, oh, what? What is this? Oh, this got super interesting. I thought it was going to be like a serial killer thing. And then I was like, oh, no, there is a whole... You know, it's the Buffy the Vampire Slayer theme.
Oh, yeah.
Except for that was really bad. I did a Will level version of it.
I was actively trying to remember what the Blade song is in that first club. That's really iconic.
Oh my god, no, I have no idea. I can't recall that. But yeah, no. Anyway, okay. So where shall we begin? Shall we begin with her? I feel like what all is there to tell from her end of things at the beginning? I guess the book is really important to talk about. Do you want me to start us off, or do you want to start
the
us off?
book she wants to write, or
the journal?
Yes. You may start us off.
Okay, I will try, but please interrupt me if you'd like to add anything.
All right.
So our entire tale opens in a journal format. We have somebody. What's her name again? Etsy, right? Etsy Bocarn.
Bocarn.
Bocarn. I don't know how to spell it, so I don't know how to pronounce it exactly. It's because I was listening to it kind of fast, so you know they kind of slur the words together when it goes that fast. Anyway,
oh no.
So Etsy is basically, like I said before, she's an academic. She is struggling. It's because she can't really anchor in her place in the academic world. And so she's been searching for something in order to generate her tenure. And like I said, some construction worker out in Montana is doing construction work, and lo and behold, they find this hidden journal wrapped up in skin. And the journal's like, I mean, like Elin said, it's from 1912. So I don't know what year it was, though. I don't remember what year she said it was. When she was writing.
2016?
Something like that. So, okay, so like approximately 100 years old. So this journal is really old, but it's not just hers. It is also, Bucarn. Okay, I see. Thank you, Chris. Wait, does that mean good meat?
Yes.
Shut up!
She actually does a little spiel about it, about how people constantly kind of get her surname wrong. And how it's constantly confused as it started with flowers being mistranslated into bouquet, but originally it was Bocarn, which is funny because it is of the kind of carnal, meaty nature.
Yeah, that's interesting, especially considering the emphasis on consumption in this book, which I would really like to talk about at some point. It's really interesting. But anyway, so it's not just her journal. So it's not just like something she can inherit. It's also a historical piece. So the journal is put basically into the depths of the library where it's in a climate controlled facility and it's all like nice and protected. And she goes on about how she's told how to handle the book and everything. And so basically she takes pictures of it or scans or whatever, so that way she can read it from the comfort of her home and not like, you know, with the glaring lights and everything. So she has all these copies. When we get to her apartment, which seems very depressing and dour because she's a very lonely woman. Her father, it doesn't seem like she talks to her father a lot. I think he's a retired chemist. I don't think he's a chemist anymore because he's ill. And
he's in like a nursing home down in Denver,
yeah.
is it?
I
Yeah.
don't remember where at, but she's not really in contact with her father. She hasn't talked to him in a long time. She doesn't really seem to have any friends. She doesn't seem very happy. The only thing she has in her life is her cat Taz, and so her cat, which is an indoor-outdoor cat, which instantly irritated me. I'm like,
In a city.
who does that? And she was just kind of like very laissez-faire about like, oh, hopefully Taz comes home. And I'm just like, what do you mean hopefully he comes home? Here's your cat. And she loves him too. So I'm like, what are you doing with your
Yeah.
cat? But anyway, ignoring pet ownership issues in the book, which there are many, she starts reading the book. And as she starts reading the book, the audiobook transfers into the tone of her grandfather's voice. And this is where we get the beginning of, his name's Arthur, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you, can I let you take over from here?
Oh, yes. I shan't go into too much detail. I actually did this thing. I did the Maria thing where I read this book as an ebook and an audiobook
Oh, yeah?
at the same time because I was like, that's going to help me remember the plot beat by beat. But to abbreviate, we meet Arthur Bacon. He's an old doddy pastor.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe him, Dottie.
Yeah, and he's very pleased with being old and dotty and kind of shuffling around because he's missing a few toes. So he does everything and he does it kind of slowly, but he's a pastor. He did get an ecclesiastical education earlier in life, but he didn't actually take up tenure until later on. And now he tends his little flock of German Lutherans in this city called
Miles, I think it's called.
Miles City.
Yeah.
In the newly what do you call it when you ratify a state?
Basically, just to picture the Wild West, because I don't know the term. But and if somebody says
It
in
was
chat,
known
we'll
as
highlight it.
Montana Territory previously, but now it has been
territory.
declared
Yeah.
a real state. So they're in Montana State, and that is very important to Arthur. Maybe perhaps because of what they had to do. But anyway, it is 1912, and the savages have been subdued for a number of years now. I believe the last big battle happened back in 1870.
Yeah, it was some time ago. It's because he's like
Mm-hmm.
those days are long gone.
Yeah,
And
those savage days are long gone.
and not just that, but the days also of any type of Native American identity at this point is just a footprint in the past. It has already been decimated. And so it's not common for any interactions to really happen. Or if they do, it is typically violent or depressing, I suppose, depending on. So, like, the whole thing with Arthur is that it's still not unheard of for Native Americans to attack people depending on like where they are, what they're doing, especially because what they have done to, and I say they, I mean basically all the white people from Europe and all the wherever else that came along and was in that area. They have like the big sin that's happened, besides the fact that they actually killed it like everybody, is also they've killed the land. And so the land also reflects that in this scene, or in the scenes of Miles City. It's because everything seems kind of desolate, dirty, filthy, dead.
It's basically wild land that has been cut through by the steel of industrialism.
Yes.
And the trains kind of cutting the land up into pieces, and all the people traveling alongside and establishing their new little holdings alongside the railway, and just butchering the land to make
Yeah.
their own paradise, kind of, which still to this day leads to some hostility with the native peoples and the people of the city I've already forgotten the name of. Why?
Miles City. It's so funny because it's like the measurement. Miles. The well, actually, hey, it's my measurement, not your measurement. Excuse me. You guys use kilometers, don't you?
No, that was a great association. I'm gonna remember it from now on. Miles
Okay,
City.
cool. But so Arthur, the one thing that you get immediately is that he is a glutton. Like, he talks about sin and such, not in a very. he kind of is lofty about it, but he's also got this tongue-in-cheek delivery where he's like, ah, but I too am a sinner. And he cannot stop eating.
Yeah, it's so
It's,
funny.
it's both delicious sounding and disgusting.
He's trying to sound very pious and very, goodly. He's like, "Oh, forgive this old sinner," but he mentioned his
What?
when they give a lecture to the people, his
Oh,
sermon.
his sermon,
He
yeah.
mentioned his sermon in just a couple of words, and then he writes paragraphs about the sumptuous cake that one of the
I
parishioners
know!
left for him afterwards, and he sets out a plan for how to ration it so he can have a little before breakfast and a little before dinner, and sometimes he has a little double on the lunch, but that's to be expected. Might as well eat while it's good, and yeah, he is very. There's a gluttony in how he describes eating, which tells you that this is the true joy of his elderly life. And it also goes a little way to establish just how rare like baked goods like sugar and stuff like that still is to this day.
Not just
Among
that,
people.
also, but he doesn't probably do any of this for himself. I don't imagine he's going to sit there and bake a cake for himself either. So these gifts also that are being given to him in the form of food are almost like tithes as well. He mentions, and so he's basically living off. It's very interesting, the symbolism there. It's because he is gluttoning himself over the payment others are giving him to forgive them of their sins. So he's eating other people's sins in a way, which is very interesting. And so it's really uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable for me in some places to listen to the description of the food because, like Elon said, it goes into a lot of detail. And it both makes you hungry because it sounds delicious, but at the same time, it sounds too, too much. It sounds gross, almost
Yeah.
pornographic in nature.
Yeah, it is a little pornographic, and he comes off as a little
Overzealous with just food.
yeah
But to
it
be
feels
frank,
like
I
he
guess I would
doesn't
be
really
too.
have
If
anything
I,
else to care about.
I know, like to be frank, honestly, like I probably would be too. But
Yeah, because apart from like cleaning his church after service and giving sermon and eating his food, he doesn't really do anything except write in his journal.
yeah, and then he also another big thing is we know that he has some heft on his heart. We know that he alludes to the fact that he became a man of the cloth. It's because he felt he had to atone for something, and he does not. Very irresponsibly, he does not want to acknowledge the person he was before he took the cloth. He says that person's dead. They don't exist anymore. I'm me now. So it's almost like I can't get in trouble for that thing I did long ago. It's because now I'm already doing the good thing. And so you also get this like what's the word I'm looking for? Not I don't know. But anyway, you get my point. So what's the first thing that happens from this? I guess the first notable thing that happens is I was gonna call it big stab. Good stab, when good stab comes in. Is that correct?
If I recall,
Oh no, the bodies.
yes. It begins with them finding a hump, they called
Oh,
it, outside of Miles City. And the hump is a white man who has been murdered rather savagely. And he has been skinned, which is something that immediately makes the men think that it's the savages doing it.
it's reminiscent of the buffalo hunters, and specifically the reason why is because the way the hump or the remainders of the flesh were found is one, they were skinned. Two, also abnormally, they were exsanguinated. I'm not saying that right, but they had no blood left. As soon as that happened, I was like, it didn't even hit me yet. I was just like, oh, that's weird. What serial killer nonsense is this?
I got stuck on the fact that their faces was painted in two
Yes.
colors. And I was like, okay, what does this mean? What does
Yeah,
it mean?
see, I thought it was like a serial killer call, which it is, calling card. And so because the faces are painted half gold and half black, if I recall correctly, that's the way they would paint the buffalo skulls. And so by doing that, some of the old, like one gentleman in particular in the town who's from the older days of that, recognizes this, and so there's a bit of like rumor going around that this might be like Native American work. It's because
Yeah.
they're like, maybe it's like a revenge thing or something like that because
Mm-hmm.
of the nature of the body.
Mm-hmm.
They also don't know who the man is. He's not from the city, and so they have no idea who he is. So we start off with that, and then of course later in the day, mind you, the town, like I picture it like a town square, or like just like the old westerns where it's just like one main
It's
road.
yeah, it's a main thoroughfare, and it's all the houses built like
Yeah,
kind of side by side after it.
that's exactly what I'm picturing anyway. They're also like, dogs are a big thing in this book, which is interesting. I wonder if he just likes dogs or writing about dogs. I mean, there's a lot of animals in general in this book, but I'm just thinking of his other book, Mongrel. Not that I really know what it's about, but um,
I figured dogs were one of those things that people just brought with them because they were good too. They protected your home, they were good ratters, they were companions, they warned you about intruders.
yeah, fair enough. But the whole town is like littered with stray dogs, and so they're just all roaming out in the street. And there's one day where he, meaning our main character Arthur, he's giving a sermon, and then in the midst of the sermon, a strangely robed person comes in through the back, and he's got, like we described before, like basically sunglasses. They're not sunglasses as we know them, but he's got shaded glasses of some sort, and he's wearing like the robes of a priest.
Yeah,
And yeah, which is so strange to me, like visually.
long black robes, no cravat, just the long black robes of a priest. And Bokarn is like, I wonder if he is aware that this is a kind of blasphemy in itself, or if, as a savage who has taken an interest in Christianity, he doesn't understand the nuance or of how inappropriate it is. But he's like, okay, never mind. Just let him listen. Let the heathen be cultured, kind of.
Yeah, and the whole time he's like thinking this, it's very obvious through his language, even though, and he's aware of it himself too, to a certain degree, I think, but he's very belittling. He treats him like through the eyes of an adult to a child, which is, again, incredibly, like, it is very presumptive to think you know more than another like that. So it's that instant, it already shadows and colors in Arthur Bokarn's view of what should be considered humane towards a Native American.
Yes, because this whole book is narrated in like diary form, so we get his direct narration into the book. There is no supporting omniscient narration. So basically, we hear Arthur trying to sound respectful of the and acknowledging of the natives as human, but at the same time he kind of gives himself away by sort of thinking of them as pigs or
Yeah.
as monkeys, like something that is kind of dumb.
Yeah, and it's funny. It's because I say it's funny because it's well written in the way that you can tell that. Because you're like, well, oh, who's he admitting this to if it's his journal? Who's he trying to correct in front of? Well, he's trying to correct for himself so that way he feels mightier than. And
And he's
so,
also
like,
lying to the person who matters most, which is himself.
yeah, that's a wonderful line. Yeah, exactly. So he waits until after well, he doesn't, chase the guy out or anything. He waits until after the sermon is over, and then he kind of awkwardly but very obviously, he's like, what are you doing here? Like, shuffles his way over, and we
Yeah,
get our first interaction between who we come to learn the name of as Good Stab, as well as many other monikers. And
yeah.
then, yeah, go
It's
ahead.
like all the parishioners kind of trail out of the church after sermon is over, and the native or the Indian, as he calls him, just remains in the back. He sits at the very back of the pews, and the pastor is very like, it would be very rude and inappropriate of me to turn one of my flock out. So he begins to putter around and just start tidying up the pews and collecting the Bibles and turning out the lights. And then little by little, he kind of approaches the stranger and he's like, pardon me, good man, how can I help you, kind of? And the native is very,
Well
he's
spoken?
kind of, he is well spoken, but he speaks in an old vernacular at the same time. And he's also kind of implacable to
Yeah.
this white man. He doesn't adhere to any of the niceties that white men do amongst themselves, so it's very difficult for him to read him. But the native says something along the lines of, "Do you take a confession?"
Oh yeah, he's like, I am here to confess or something like that, or he says something, the term of
Mm-hmm.
confession, and the thing is in Lutheran, in the following of like Lutherans, that's not really like the same
We don't,
process.
yeah,
No,
we don't do confession,
no,
and the priest doesn't give absolution of our sins because the priest, as
exactly.
opposed to Catholicism, isn't an extension of God. He's just a shepherd of God. So in Lutheranism, it's more important of how you live and
Yeah,
that you pay the proper respects to your Lord and live according to the Bible. But he's like, this is not a Catholic parish. We are Lutherans. But if you come up to the dais
yeah,
with me, we can sit there and I will hear your confession still. And so it begins. He tries to ask the native man what to call him by, and the man is like, I've had many names. Once I was Weasel Plume, then I was Good Stab. I've also been the Full Blood and takes no scalps. And Arthur's like, okay, so which one is it?
yeah. I think he ends up settling with Good Stab, doesn't he?
He ends up settling with Good Stab because it sounds like, because he surmises that the man is Blackfeet. So he's like, that sounds like the most proper name for a man. And you can tell that the native man is he's both chastised by being called this name, but he
Yeah,
also
he
kind
doesn't
of
like.
accepts it.
Yeah, he doesn't like that it's an older name for himself, and we're going to learn why. But
Mm-hmm.
he also requests, I think, or no, Arthur is like, oh, I noticed that his eyes are, because he tries to, the native man takes off his eye cover, and he's still like, it's like the light is too much for him. So
Yeah,
he
kind of
lowers the
squints and
shutters and he
shows back.
squint, like he pinches out all of the flames except for like one near them, so that way he could be more comfortable, and urge him to tell his confession and everything like that. And then we get into the story, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have in the audiobook a transition from Arthur's voice into Good Stab's voice. And we get the beginning of his tale, which, let me tell you, I was so confused at the beginning of this, and I'll explain why when we get to the scene. But I got really thrown for a minute with the Catman stuff. I was like, wait, where did I miss this? But anyway, like, shall we just summarize basically what their plan is, and what they intend to do, him and his band?
Yes. I can't remember what they were sent out to do.
So we get this like period where he's leaving the community with his really good friend, Tall Dog. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, he leaves the camp with Tall Dog and a band of other native men called
Hunts
a
from the
long name.
side.
Yeah, what's anyway, they're basically the police force, and they are heading out. And even though Goodstep is a man in his own right and thinks that he has more important things to do, he used to be in possession of a many shots gun, as he calls them,
A revolver, I'm
which
assuming.
I think it's a bold action
Oh,
because,
okay, yeah.
but I am not
I don't know
actually
no guns,
sure.
so yeah. Maybe Will, if he's still in the chat. This would be a great time for you to actually bump in with weapons knowledge.
Maybe it's a musket. It shoots bullets, so it's
Yeah,
not powder, but it
yeah,
shoots bullets.
and
Anyway, he lost his many shots guns,
yeah,
and he hasn't found a way to acquire a new one. So his usefulness as a hunter is limited, and this is a big grievance to him. So basically, considers that he's being sent out as a kind of Boy Scout to babysit the police force as they travel out to
the backbone.
the backbone to.
So the whole big Chris got it too. The big thing with this police force is that their job is to basically make sure
Oh
that there are
yes,
no traces of natives. It's because they're being framed for a lot of like deaths up along the routes where
oh
trappers will be. And so they don't want
yeah,
to get blamed for any of the deaths. So they're
yeah.
going up there. They're also going up there for another reason, but we'll get there in a second. So
Hmm.
they're all going up there. Are they this whole time? They have the Catman with them?
No, they go out on horseback, and they found this slaughtered convoy, and they quickly figure out that a neighboring clan has done it, and they have done it in a way as to try to make it look like it was the Pikuni who did it. So they have de-shoed their horses to make it look like, because
Yeah.
apparently the Pikuni don't shoe their horses, so they have de-shoed their horses or mules to try to make it look like the Pikuni did it, so they will get the blame. And this is kind of a thing that the tribes do at this time to kind of keep the heat off themselves. It's very much the natives have not been subdued in this part of America yet, and there are active like skirmishes going on still. So they try to clean away this caravan, and they quickly find that this caravan just had mules. Um, but there's a covered wagon left on the site, and once they step up into the wagon to see what's in the cart, they find a cage, and in the cage is the palest, whitest Napikwan they have ever seen. Napikwan is the word for white skins.
Yeah.
So they were like, why? Why is the cage bolted to the caravan with irons? Why is the Napikwan basically naked? Why were they ferrying him up here? Like, what the heck happened here? But then they also figure that this is an incredibly pale man. He does not look entirely natural. So maybe he is the great white god. I actually have a quote, if you don't mind. I'm just going to
No,
find
no,
it.
not at all. Please.
Because I had this as a ebook. And every once in a while I find a book that I just get kind of obsessed with. And I
Yeah,
have
the quotes
to.
I will say while she's looking for this, the quotes in this book are stellar. There are some good like 1 to 2 liners that are very what this author does a really great job of is echoing a sentiment within reflections of itself. So that way you get like that sentiment through other people's verbiage or through some type of symbolism that's like graphic or something like that. And it's really nice because then that theme really comes through super strongly and it feels like a good lit book, you know?
Okay, so one amongst their band is called Peasy. It's a god, and he's white, Peasy finally said. And the way he said it, we one by one heard what he was meaning. It was what I was already telling you about how the great white god would climb Chief Mountain and Chief Mountain would crumble. None of us knew what would come after that, just that it had to happen. But Otter Goes Back had told us kids that when the chief crumbled, it would leave a great hole in the ground, and the Pikuni would rush through there, and no Napiquans could follow. Not so long as we left all of their kettles and guns and even their horses behind. And I think that was a really great quote because we are already touching on how part of what is going on is that the natives invited the settlers and traded their iron pots and guns and horses for letting the settlers stay, and now the settlers are beginning to kill them and push them back and take their land and break the land. So they think this guy is the many god, the great white god. So they're like, what should we do with him? Well, we're going to take him to Great Mountain, obviously.
Obviously.
Yeah, obviously. So they latch two of their horses to the wagon, And they're like, okay, so the snow is very thick. They start a little, but then they get stuck. And they're like, the snow is very thick. We're gonna have to latch two more horses to it. How do we do that? We have no yoke. But they're like, but we've seen white men use this this long wooden object to kind of attach their oxen to the carts. So, good stab. You go find a long wooden piece so we can yoke our two last horses to it. So, good stab goes off down the hill to try to find a good piece of wood. And on his way there, he comes upon a family of beavers who have built a great big dam. And down the slope, he sees a piece of wood that would be perfect for this very thing that he's looking to do. But he stops and he says to himself, these beavers. And he remembers that on the floor inside the cart were 9 really beautiful beaver skins. And even though most of the Napiquans by now have begun to favor buffalo skins, beaver skins will still give you a good trade. So he's like, oh, maybe I could trade these beaver skins for a new many shots gun and be a man again finally. But 9 is an uneven number, and he knows by experience that the traders favor even numbers. So he's like, if I had 10 beaver skins, that would be perfect. So against his better judgment, he's like, I'll just go get this beaver skin, and then I'll come back, and I'll get the wooden branch, and we'll get going. It'll be quick.
But it's super sacrilegious because beavers are supposed to be like medicinal in representation because of the Great Beaver Lodge, all that stuff. So they have like a representation of a healer that is a basically a man-sized beaver. And so it's not okay to go in there and go kill a beaver. It's
Yeah,
super
like
not okay.
he's not hunting the beaver out of necessity. He should respect the beavers and adhere to the wisdom of their beaver medicine, and he should not. But he becomes greedy, so he creeps
Yeah.
up on the beaver lodge, and he approaches it from above because he's like, I can't swim in from below, so I have to crawl in from above. And he peers down, and he sees the great Papa Beaver, who is there to protect and warn the others. And he falls upon him and kills the beaver. And afterwards, he quickly he skins the beaver, and doing sacrilege, he just leaves the carcass. Like, he's not going to use the carcass. He just wanted the skin,
Yeah,
and he
and
wastes the skin down in the water and stakes it there so he can return and get it later.
and the bad thing is that maybe it's not a bad thing. I guess it gives him reason. But I also think this thought in and of itself corrupts him. But I guess maybe if it's the truth because of the supernatural elements, it is just the truth. But he believes this to be the turning point in his life, the real big turning point. At this point, he's already had a couple of wives. He's had children. Unfortunately, they've all they've fallen to something. I don't remember if he recalls, but they're no longer around. They're all in this sand hills, so they're dead. And so he's lost his lodge. He has nothing. He's in his late 30s or early 40s or something like that. Something to that effect. And he's, lost his weapon that he feels makes him into a capable warrior. And so by doing this, he feels he loses himself as his tribe, but also he has like a spirit guide. And this is the last time his spirit guide tries to help him by like swaying him elsewhere, but he doesn't listen to it. And so this
Yeah.
is like his fracturing from his like the spirits that are supposed to protect and like show him the way.
Yeah, the swift runner, as he calls an antelope, shows up and clearly shows him the branch that he's supposed to get, and instead he goes for the beaver. And when he looks back, the swift runner is gone. And this is an omen.
And it is.
Whether
It's
it actually
because
works, or whether it's superstition, or whether it's like, we don't know. It
yeah.
is very meaningful to him, though.
I
This
assume it must be real only because why wouldn't it be real when everything else is real that's going on? Like with the we'll get into it, I guess.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't think we should equate their mysticism and their faith with the magical things that are happening in this book.
That's fair. No, but regardless,
Um,
it's real to him. So it still is it's almost like, hoodoo, like where you believe in it, it becomes real. So for him, at the very
yeah,
least, it's real.
and maybe it's always real. Maybe it's always been real. It's just that in this book we get a clearer step 1 to 2 to 3, and a direct result rather shortly after. So, in the context of the book, it very much seems like this is where he started going really wrong.
So he makes his way back up to where the rest of the group is, or he's about to, when he hears like really loud bangs. It's gunfire. And so when he makes his way back up, he sees that his basically all his ooh, is all his that they're all but blood, and everybody's like dead, except for one person who's doing their death song, and they're being attacked by trappers, I think, right?
A group, no, it's a group of soldiers.
Oh, it's a
And
group of soldiers. That's right.
the
You're
thing
right.
is that going north, they had been following in the tracks of a group of soldiers, and they were like, this is dangerous path, but soldiers don't turn back. Soldiers march forward typically, and the only thing that have turned these soldiers back is that the weather was turning. So the soldiers had sought lower ground to take shelter, and so they crossed paths.
And
And
this is where we get a really cool scene, honestly. Did we ever get a reason why they called him the Catman?
I, I, up until this point, they called him the White Great God.
Yeah.
And when his was it runs to the side, who did his war dance,
Yeah.
um, he gets shot, and before he falls for the final time, and while this is happening, Good Stab is kind of hiding behind the wagon and taking cover because he has no weapons. He can't actually do much, and neither technically can his friend. And yet he sees his friend stand up like a true pikuni
Yeah.
and cry his war cry and fall as a warrior. And he kind of thinks to himself that I should do
I
that.
should do that.
I how can I face my forefathers in the sandy shores,
Sandhills.
the sand hills, if I don't? And his friend goes down, and kind of with his dying breath, the last thing he does is unlatch the lock on the cage holding the white great god. And the man is released, and he kind of springs out, all godly like. But almost immediately, he falls upon the soldiers, and he kind of just rips and tears, and heads fly off. And almost immediately, Good Stab is like, he moves like an animal. This isn't, it's not a godly thing that is happening. He is an animal. And
I was picturing a wolf as this was happening, or a leopard.
Mhm.
And so,
But then the thing kind of turns around and looks at him, and it talks to him. It calls him something, and as he's about to reply, another soldier shows up and shoots the Catman, who then hisses like a cat. And from then on, he's like the Catman in the mind of this book. And the Catman falls upon the soldier and kills him.
and Good Stab knows that he's going to fall upon him too, or it is going to fall upon him too. So
Yeah,
he
when
tries
it's
to
done
prepare
with the
himself.
others.
Yeah, so he tries to prepare himself, and he also tries to like get them into a position where this one soldier and the Catman will like basically kill each other. Little does he know. There's this one point where one of the soldiers has basically a cannon of some sort, and he's
Yeah, the soldier
shrapnel or something.
commander suddenly makes a noise to call their attention, and the Catman kind of swings around, and he has a cannon, but it's not loaded with a cannonball as would be usual. It is loaded with, it is a special type of cannon they had for a while that spread like hail, kind
Yeah.
of. It's loaded
just
with
like
many small
buckshot.
bullets. Yeah,
Yeah.
buckshot essentially. So he shoots it into the Catman, who's like ripped into shreds, and quickly after,
Big Stab
Good
is also
Stab.
gotten.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, he gets
I
shot
thought
up
he
a
was
little
shot
bit,
by yeah,
and then he gets finished off. And then we have this moment where we come out of the story, and there's this really nice nice usage of, what's the word I want to use, of oh gosh, rituals, I guess, where at the beginning of each story, our Arthur says what he knows Native Americans to say before listening to a story, which is, I listen with a good heart. And at the end of a telling, the person telling it says, this story is done, my pipe is empty, or whatever, because, you've told your story, you're done smoking, telling the tale. And so this is where I think this ends for a brief moment, and we get brought back into Arthur's world. And this is where he's like, you may not believe me now, but you'll come to believe me in the future. Because what happened that day is I died. That was the first time I died. And then we have, I think another after that, we get Arthur's perspective, and another hump is found. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The Indian man ends his tale with, and now my pipe is empty every time, because in the way of their culture, they smoke pipe as they palaver. But this man, he never does, and yet he finishes his story each time with saying that now my pipe is empty. And the story ends with him dying in the snow, which is an odd end. So, especially because he's like, you're not going to believe this story at first, but after a while you will. And Arthur's like, you just told me that you died, and yet you're sitting before me.
He immediately starts trying to pick apart his story, too, in his journal. He's like, he's like, the years are wrong for what he told me, so I think he's making it up. And also, the gun he's talking about wasn't really made like that, so he probably never saw it, and he just made it up because he's like a dumb he doesn't know anything about guns.
Exactly. And he looks at the man, and he's like, this man is maybe 40, like he's younger than me. There is no way he could be there, because this native man, he places it in a special time frame. He traces it on the day that
a specific battle happened. And so it's just, the fact is that he would have to be 80 if he were that, and he does not look 80, even for his good his skin looks really with the exception of some pock marks here and there, and his hair looks full and luscious. He doesn't look old enough.
It doesn't add up. He's just too young to have been here in 1870, like he says.
And then of course when that gag dropped, I was like, wait a moment.
About that, I actually have another quote.
Okay.
I can see your lips counting now that I am nearly 80 winters, and I can also see that you don't believe this. You will. But first you need to know that all of this starts with Owl Child, the Picuni who killed the Napiquan rancher forebears, who is Malcolm Clark to you. He was married to Cut-Off Head Woman, who was Owl Child's family. Before that, it starts with the trappers and the traders and the whiskey and the smoke boats and the wagon and the white horns and the many shotguns full of greased shooters. But the story I tell you now is with Owl Child killing forebears with an axe in the forehead, and where that all left us. And it's where what I'm telling you starts, with soldiers getting sent out to find Owl Child at Mountain Chief's winter camp on the Bear to put the axe back in his head. So the group of soldiers that fell upon them were sent out looking for this Owl Child, who was a Picuni.
Yeah. So anyway, Arthur's like, no shot, bud. You're just making this stuff up. And so another hump is found. And this time he walks out there with the sheriff to where the body's found and everything. And if I recall, and it's such a weird scene because it's very reminiscent of basically every Western that you've ever seen. They go out there with a dog on a rope. And they're talking about the body and basically speculating about who or what it could be. And the corpse's body or face is also painted again. It's been skinned, exsanguinated. But this time, one of the things that I believe the buffalo hunters used to do, I think, yes, they would put strychnine in and poison the meat, so that way Native Americans who were like, oh my God, you killed all these buffalo, at least let's make use of the meat. And they
Yeah,
try to
like
make use of
you.
the meat, they get poisoned. And so the one guy, the sheriff guy, I think, is just like, with his, like, his chew tobacco or whatever, and then he's just like, let's see what happens with this dog. And so he undoes the dog, and he slathers the rump of the corpse with like butter or something, or fat. It's
Yeah,
fat,
like
bacon grease.
goose fat or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so that
bacon
way,
grease.
yeah. And so then the dog goes, it bites it and dies later in the day. And they're like, oh, okay, so it's like confirmed that this seems to be like a revenge
Yeah,
thing.
and the sheriff sends his own dog to do this.
I
They're
think he just grabbed a
suggesting
random
it's.
dog. I think he grabbed a random dog off the street because it was one of the, I think it was one of the strays.
Yeah, it's said that it's the stray, but it's also the stray that the sheriff had kind of favored. So
Oh,
it was
that's
kind of
so weird. Yeah, I know
yeah,
that's so bizarre.
so, so
Again,
weird and callous.
they're
But I
weird with
guess they could
pets.
just get a new one. Yeah,
Like I wasn't kidding. Yeah, I would like
yeah.
seriously. They are
So
so
they,
weird with pets in this book.
yeah, they immediately do this. They rub him the corpse full of bacon grease, and then they kind of turn away and just let the dog kind of do its thing. And Arthur has this internal narration where he's like,
Uh,
"It shames me to admit it,
that the bacon grease
but
smelled good.
to this day, bacon grease makes my mouth water." And the horrible slobbery sounds made me want to puke, but at the same time, it smelled so damn good.
Yeah, I know.
And it's like,
And then, so I think if I recall correctly, he goes back in, he gives sermon, blah blah blah. He gets more food and he talks about the food, yum 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 yum, and then doesn't Good Stab come in to tell the second part of his tale?
yeah, yes. In regards to the body, this is another stranger in town in Mile City. They don't know who it is, and since forensic technology does not exist yet, there is only so much they can do. Like they take him back to cold storage and they're gonna bury him. Basically,
Yeah.
this second man was older than the first man they found, and that's the. Aside from that, he was doused in strychnine, and the dog eats the morning after it ate from him. That is the last we hear about it for a while. So Arthur comes back, and one of his parishioners has left him something else, something delicious. I can't remember. Was it the sausage? Was the
Yeah,
sausage
I think it
legal?
was the sausage actually. This okay, I'm not gonna lie. No, it was peas porridge. That's what
Oh,
it was. That see, it's really easy to remember the food for me because it sounded so delicious each time you
and
brought it up.
I can only assume that what the person gives is kind of a reflection of how they've sinned. So I keep wondering if the cake person had sinned worse than the peace
Oh,
porridge person.
I don't. I don't. Maybe I don't know, but the peas
Anyway,
porridge sounded more delicious anyway. But anyway, that doesn't matter. The point is though, is so anyway he gives his sermon. Good Step comes back. He, as per usual, he twists out all the wicks. It's nice and dark. He takes off the glasses, and they have a little bit of dialogue back and forth. But nothing that sticks in my head as something that I like plot wise would be necessary.
I don't think
Maybe
so either. I think mostly we move on to the
the
part where
story.
he died, and yet he's here to tell the story.
Yeah. And
So
so, go ahead.
now he tells the story of how he woke up, and his hands were blackened, and when he tried to like scrape off the blackened stuff on his hands and feet, his skin started sloughing off, and he.
Sloughing off like the bark of a tree that he
Mhm.
describes that comes off. And I'm just like, what? Like, at this point, I still didn't get what was going on. I was really blind. I had literally no idea what was going on. But I was just like, wait a
I
second.
at this point I did recall that the Catman had latched onto his neck at one point before they were shot with the cannon, and also that he tasted the Catman's blood before they were shot.
Yeah.
And I was like, could it be? Maybe. And also the
Yeah,
fact that
that's
he's
fair.
alive now. Basically, he kind of sort of wanders around. He realizes that the soldier who shot them had essentially gathered all the dead in a pile and burned them. So, well, he had burned the Indians, like the natives, and Catman. And he had moved on. from there.
Yeah. But he could
So that's
smell. This is where we get, and this is where I realized, oh, it's like a vampire. So he opens his nose and he can smell all these smells he could never and his eyes are different and he feels different and he lopes on all his two front, like when he's running, because he smells the soldier and he's like, I'm gonna kill him. And so he runs in the direction, but as he's running, it's described almost like he's like this like vengeful spirit. He's like loping like a creature. And so for a brief moment, I thought, oh, like, is this like a were leopard? I'm dumb at this point. I don't know what's going on. And so he catches up with the soldier and he latches onto his neck and then he drinks him dry. And once he latches on, he can't let go. And when he's drinking, he's like, oh my gosh, this is so sumptuous. This is like, and he gets so, and this is the grossest part, guys. When he drinks from a very large source, he gets very, very full. And the way it's described, when he gets full, it almost, I picture, and I guess you should picture it too, just to make you suffer, is I picture a hernia. Have you ever seen extreme cases of hernias on stomachs? I basically just picture that, but so it's like a blood pustule and he afterwards he realizes he gets really languid, almost like a snake after eating, and he gets tired and he can't really move, and so then he becomes immobile and he feels the blood start trickling into all the different pockets, as he says, in his body, like they're filling it in, and so then after a little bit he's able to like move. I'll give you a chance to continue the plot if you'd like. I can also continue.
That was a great recap of you remembered more body horror details than I did.
Oh god, it was just so gross the way it was described. And then also I was like, god, this sucks, this version of the vampire. It's because you can't even, because another thing that happens, right? So he realizes that he has changed. There's something wrong. When the sun comes up, his eyes hurt a whole bunch. His body like kind of has like worked itself back together, and he's not like, obviously he has no hair, but his hair's already started growing back because he had been burned, and you can tell that the blood that he's consumed has helped regenerate something in him. He ends up, I don't recall exactly what happens right then, but I think if I remember correctly, at some point he goes back and he looks at the cage and stuff, but that might not be yet. I know he crawls into that. He knows that there's a den right near where the man had been staying in when he was fleeing, and it was a bear.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he smells the scent of a bear on the man and can smell that the man had taken shelter in a hole earlier, wholly unaware that deeper in that hole was a bear.
Wholly unaware.
Oh.
But yeah, so he goes and he
for the winter. But I think he did something else before that.
He did. I just can't recall what it was.
I seem to recall that his skin started growing back, and he talks about how the thing that he has done is kind of abhorrent to him, and that whatever has become of him, it is something that has made Sun Chief, which is the sun, hurt him now. So he's getting this sense on that he's being cursed.
Mm-hmm.
If I recall, he tries to return home. And
I don't think he comes down from the mountain yet. I just remember, I think, if I'm not mistaken, he does something, and then he winters in with the bear over the winter, and he sucks on his dreams, doesn't he? And then, because and then the bear, when it wakes up, gets angry at him, and it flops him around, and he's like, go eat, and then it's like, and then it lumbers away, but now he's like kind of damaged, and then he starts drinking four-legged creatures, and he starts getting the horns.
Yeah. Is this before or after he accidentally, because he talks about how there was a puny child who was playing with his many-shots gun, and the many-shots gun wasn't properly taken care of, so one day it exploded in the boy's hands, so now the boy is missing 3 fingers.
Yeah.
And is this because he comes across the boy and
he does
him? Is that before he crawls into the bear's den, or is it after?
I'm not sure. It might have been regardless, he also encounters a human kill that he struggles with. And but what the big thing I think that we should really take away from this moment, or these series of moments, is that while he's on the mountain, and maybe it is after he did this to the child, but I don't feel like he ate from another human, before he started growing the horns. But I could be wrong. But what
I
happens
think
is
that's why he was driven to eat so many animals, because
maybe,
animals don't taste as good as human.
yeah,
And I
yeah, that's
think at
fair.
one point he drained a human, and the taste was so wonderful. And after he saw the missing fingers on the hand and realized that he had
Yeah.
consumed someone who cared
Yes.
for him. He had consumed someone. It was his duty. It was his burden to kind of care for and make up to. Like the fact that his gun was what maimed this child
Yeah.
has made him forever like in debt, indebted to the boy who was called White Teeth or something like that. White Teeth, I think.
Yeah. I remember.
And this realization was so horrid to him that he kind of made a resolution to only eat animals. So he did this for
As all
several
vampires
winters.
do.
Yeah.
Um,
So he did this for several winters until one day he realizes that he is starting to take on some unusual characteristics.
of the animals he's been consuming, and he's started growing horns, like the antlers.
Hmm.
And it's at this moment where I was like, wait a second, is this a Wendigo? Like, is it not a vampire, but a Wendigo that we're talking about? And so it's a really interesting combination, I think, of both creatures in this. Or maybe there's like some equivalent to that from some other culture, that where it's both vampiric and something that consumes human flesh and turns into the thing that it is, or whatever. But
Well,
yeah,
I
go ahead.
was curious because the chapters of the pastor are called the
Absolution of three
Nachtwerers.
persons.
Oh yeah, the absolution. The other ones are called the Nachtwerers Dark Confessions or something like
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I looked up the term Nachtwerer, which is also sometimes called Nachtzerer, and it's like a Slavic Germanic folk thing, that like the name means literally after consumption, or if you're saying Nachtwerer, night consumption. And it was this folktale creature that was thought to come to people and sort of drag them into death, either being malicious, but also as a way to try to like
And suffering.
no, it went after their loved ones to try to be near them, and
Oh,
instead
yes.
it killed them and
Yeah.
consumed them. So I think that that is kind of like the name itself is kind of like a little Easter egg to
Yeah.
the kind of vampire we're dealing with. Somehow, though, he puzzles it together that I've been eating so many white mouths. Is it white mouths? White tails?
Yeah.
White tails.
Quick tails or something like that. I don't remember.
Yeah, there's wagtails, and
Wagtails.
they have all these names to describe the different. He's been eating deer. He's been eating so many deer that the nubs he feels on his head are essentially the horns, and he puzzles it together that if I keep consuming these things, I might become fully deer. And he's also thinking back to the Catman,
Yeah.
who had like a slightly weird shaped head, whose teeth were almost a little like his jaw was a little too protruding, and he was really scrawny and ragged. And he was like, maybe those soldiers had kind of fed him, rats and moles and shit. And
Yeah.
that's why he was looking like that as opposed to a man, because he spoke like in a man's language to me. So he was clearly a man to begin with. So he basically figures out that if he wants to remain human,
He's got to eat human.
yeah.
And the thing that we didn't address this, but once he, it might have even been after he accidentally killed the child, but he does try to kill himself. And when he does that, he's like, his body forces him to consume what's nearest to him, and he
Yeah.
regenerates. And so it's like, it doesn't really matter he can't seemingly end his own suffering. He
Mm-hmm.
just has to continuously consume, kind of like another character that eats a lot and can't seemingly have a lot of control. I mean, Arthur.
Oh,
It's a mirrored image of the same concept, you know. Like Arthur is a glutton for like the pleasure of life for food, but Good Stab is forced to that pleasure and does not want it.
in a way, they're kind of polar opposites too, because
Yeah.
Good Stab starts to consume in order to remain close to and remember his humanity, whereas Arthur, we get a feeling too, is kind of stuffing himself
To
and
forget.
very pointedly for trying to forget, like very pointedly not thinking about the past because he did something back then that he is haunted by to this day, and he's kind of dulling it with food. So they're kind of doing it, but for different ends.
Yeah.
That's actually interesting.
I thought that was too. And what I also thought was interesting, I didn't, maybe we can talk about it during a critique stream. But there's a book I have up there. It's literary criticisms. And there's a couple. First of all, the essays in there are stellar. They're magnificent. That's what got me into like literature proper, and I actually declared my major after getting into that class with that book. Or once I took that class and got into like I liked the. It was the first academic book I liked intrinsically, and it wasn't a chore. Even though it was really hard to understand what it was saying because it was my second year of college and like I hadn't really taken any upper level classes, so I didn't know how to read that kind of material at the time.
Mm.
But there's a whole section on black magic, white science. And that's what happens in this book. And I thought it would be really interesting to deconstruct it with that theory in mind. It's because the whole black magic is just literally as it sounds. It's not a Caucasian background. It's something that is culturally different and it is unknown. It is in mysticism versus the white science, which is the white man bringing in science, and we have to explain the world only through science. You can't explain it, and that's why you get in like, and we've studied it in like horror film too, where typically there's like a character and it's usually a person of color and that's on purpose, but there's somebody that is the mystic and they have like the legend and something, but then you also have the doctor or the whoever saying, no, wow, this is a strange form of cancer, we're gonna have to take more samples or something like that.
Yeah, and especially Native Americans often end up in that the mystical, magical, savage kind of trope.
Well, that's what I'm thinking here is during the storytelling, we've got Good Stab telling his side of things with his, which is mystical in nature, and then we have Arthur trying to apply white science to it, where he's like, oh no, he's making this up because this couldn't be
Oh
and this
yeah,
couldn't be.
he keeps thinking the man is verrückt, mad, insane.
Yeah,
Eventually, and he's trying to rationalize it in his own brain. Like the poor savage was probably so traumatized by this
yeah,
event and this ambush from the soldiers that he has invented this entire narrative to kind of
yeah.
fit with his experience, and he thinks he probably fully believes that he needs to subsist on blood.
Subsist. Yeah.
But obviously, that can't be true. That can't be it.
So I think so wait. He stays with the bear. He has this realization. I get a little muddy in this area.
Yeah, he figures out that at first he just crawls up next to the bear because he's sad. Uh, One thing that really struck me is that Good Stab is very sad. He is
He
so
is very
sad.
sad. It's
He is so
understandable.
sad, and he's so lonely. And you know how almost always when an author does this thing where they're like, and my character cried, a lot of the times, me as the reader, instead I go,
He's like, oh,
stop, pull
boohoo.
yourself together. Yeah, who the
I
fuck
know.
cares? But when Good Stab cries, I'm like,
God, this is. It's also it's doubled up with the loss of his culture at the same time. He's seeing his
Yeah.
people be murdered. He already was seeing that, and now he's isolated. He can't help them. If anything, he might be a monster in their
Yeah, he
eyes.
has kind of become a thing that is a danger to them too. So
Yeah.
even when he tries to approach them, things are so fraught, and there's such a big risk that he'll actually harm the people he wants to keep safe. So he is sad, he is grieving, he is lonely, and at the same time, I felt very for Goodstad, but at the same time, it struck me how also I was happy, kind of, that he was so sad. Uh, that he didn't do the, oh, I'm essentially immortal super being, I can do whatever I want. Like, I was glad of his grief, and I felt sorry for him too, but I thought it was really touching that aside from becoming this thing, he is still very human in his spirit.
I think there's a commentary that can be made on culture, the communal culture versus the isolationist culture. Like the difference between finding meaning, happiness, and communion with community versus going out to make it your own way, and building up from the ground, but just by yourself and with your small group. So I think there's also like, I think you can argue something like that, especially when you consider Etsy and everything, and how she's experiencing life right now with no family, basically, and how sad she is with no family. I think
Yeah,
the next big part is, oh, go ahead.
and Arthur too, like
Yeah,
he is technically in a social situation, but he has very isolated himself, and he's very living just for himself, and kind
yeah,
of
not for
wrapped
others.
in all his denial, and he's very distant from his parishioners, as a pastor is wont to be, I assume. But I also felt like this suited him, because to know another is to be known, and that
Yeah.
terrified him, because he did not want to be who he used to be.
So in a weird way, I almost feel like Big Good Stab was cursed to their curse of loneliness, specifically of that culture. Like, I'm just saying European culture in general, but like, not that all European cultures. That's, if anything, that's like but it's an American thing. Like, I
Yeah.
feel like, you know what I mean? It's because that's what I feel like, really known for. It's
Mm-hmm.
very abnormal in America to, especially a white American, to live with your family. It is very abnormal. You're supposed to go out and either live by yourself, or you're a failure. Like, if you
Yeah.
can't pay for your own way, you're considered like a failure in some regard. Now
Yeah.
that's
You're
changing, but
individualist as
yeah,
opposed to the communal, like the mindset and the
which is a lot
culture. Like,
like the buffalo. Honestly, it connects with that too. It's because instead of
mm-hmm.
using every single part, I mean, it's not exactly the same thing, but instead of looking at every aspect of something, you're only there for the one thing. If that makes
Yeah, and
sense.
the settlers kind of often came over from poorer circumstances in Europe, and kind of saw it as an opportunity to make their way and make something better for themselves. So they kind of saw the land, and they grabbed at it to take whatever they could from it. Whereas the natives were very much of a mind to live in communion with,
Conjunction. Yeah.
yeah, with nature, and saw everything as a trade-off. And that's why it was so abhorrent when white men killed the buffalo and only took their skins.
What a
uh,
waste. I mean, God, just what a
yeah,
waste of good food. That's all I can think of. I mean, no,
those
I mean, on a
passages
less
made me
serious
so
basis.
angry. Oh,
Yeah. Well, no, leaving the calves too. But anyway, I think the most thing that happens next is he begins explaining how he comes down from the mountain. It's because he wants to be away from the people, his people, or like he wants to just get away. I don't remember why. But the point is, he comes down.
he
And
realizes that he has to hunt, and if he wants to
people,
remain
yeah.
human, he has to hunt people. And if he
Oh,
starves himself, he just kind of blacks out and wakes up drinking a person. Like, his
yeah.
body will autonomously seek out sustenance, so he starts going after trappers,
Yes. And
not
what
big
this is
one
important.
trappers.
Yeah, and this is important. So he ends up like killing off a lot of trappers that made it past before, and he takes all of
Hmm.
their traps and he throws it onto an island. And he fills the island with it, and he explains he doesn't want to throw it into the water because he doesn't want to basically corrupt the water spirits or like corrupt it with the metal and everything. And so he puts all of these like gajillion traps on this one island just to keep them away, and so nobody else can use the metal and such. And so then he comes down from the mountain at one point, and he sees, this is when he begins to see all of the buffalo that are being massacred and being left behind, and only their tongues and skins have been taken. And while he's looking at one of the buffalo, he gets shot by a rifle.
I actually have a quote.
I, Lay it on me, sister.
Okay. I stood in the moments after Sun Chief had gone back to his lodge, when some of his light was still on the ground. I knew what I was smelling, but I also didn't know. I followed my nose up the hill, crested over it, and out in the grass as far as I could see were blackhorns after a hunt. But no one had taken meat from them, just the robes. I walked through them, touching their haunches and side faces with my fingertips, not understanding this. And soon my fingers knew to feel for the greased shooter holes, only one per blackhorn. It was a whole herd. I wasn't hungry yet, but I was breathing deep. Beside me, one of the dead blackhorn's eyes was open. It was staring at me. I walked over, fell to my knees, and pushed that eye shut, held it shut with both hands, and it looked all around for those who had done a thing like this, which was when a greased shooter hit me in the shoulder, right there. From so far off I didn't hear its sound. It spun me 10 paces into another blackhorn, the sharp point of its horn pushing through my hand. Above me, the poor boys tried to hold in place, but were shaking fast like my eyes. My fingers were curling shut over this and over the tip of the horn sticking through my hand, either hand or the horn so cold it burned, and I can still feel it, but I don't know if it hurts or if I just remember how it hurt. This is my telling for today. The pipe is empty.
Yeah, so during this time I was like, oh god, he's gonna like die again or something like that. And then I think this is when we go back to Arthur, we meet the FBI agent. It's not an FBI agent. the
The Pinkerton man.
Pinkerton man. Yes.
Yeah,
And
from
so
the infamous Pinkerton gang.
yes. So the not the FBI. I'm not too different. The FBI is just another gang.
Back in the early days when FBI was kind of like made to counter Al Capone.
Oh, I don't know
I
much
might
about
have
it.
entirely made that up, but
I don't
basically
know.
they were thugs from the beginning, and the Pinkerton
So
gang were certainly thugs, but they were also very administrative.
administrative, yeah, no, yeah, that
Yeah,
works. Yeah, no, it
they
is
were
because he
they were
comes.
best gifted.
Yeah, he ends up coming and he meets with Arthur. And Arthur notices him at first and is like, "Oh, it's." And he doesn't introduce himself yet, but he knows that he's somebody that's from out of town, and that he's and I think I don't know if he got some of the gossip. And was knowing that he was looking into the deaths or something, but he suspected that.
The man shows up looking fly as hell in a super
Yes, that's
expensive
fair.
tailored
Yes.
suit, and Arthur's like, "Oh my god, this man looks expensive. He's got to be someone special."
Yeah, and then during this time, what happens is Arthur's starting to want more information on Good Stab. He's like, I want to know, I want to fact check some of these things, and so he actually, I think they have the funeral, and then he talks to the one guy, the Native American on the outskirts. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's what happened.
So basically, what happens is there's a funeral for one of the corpses that were found, one of the
Yeah,
humps,
for
if you
the
will.
older man who was covered in strychnine, they bury him. No, actually,
Yes,
it's the first one. It's the first
the
hump.
first one. Okay.
The other one is still in cold storage.
Okay, and so he gives a the last rites or whatever it is. I'm not religious, and
Which is a kind thing to do,
it is.
because often, like, if someone was poor and of no name, like, you would just dump them in a hole in the ground and be done with it.
So, and he seems to like take these processes somewhat seriously, but also he likes the mechanism of them.
Yeah, and it's
And
he likes the monotony, I think, and he likes the status his
yeah,
priesthood kind of gives him. Like he is doing the thing and being the man. He's kind of buying himself this new identity that
yes,
feels good
exactly.
and comfortable to him. So he's like doing it as a kind of penance, but he is very closely, very, very carefully not thinking about that to himself because he's a good man now.
Yeah. And so he wants, oh, that's what it is. He's like, I don't know if I believe Good Stab for a lot of reasons, but what is a Catman? And did the natives even know what a cat was? And so he's
Mm.
like, I know, I'm going to ask this one guy, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring him a nice thick slice of bacon, and I'm going to trade this bacon for information. And so he goes to the really sad Native American older gentleman, like really old, and
Yeah,
he's
he
out on the
asks first.
outskirts.
He asks around town to see if there's
Yes.
any Pikuni in town, and someone says there's an old Pikuni man, and
Yeah.
Arthur is like, "Oh my god, I hope it's not Good Stab." But then he does not give off the vibe of someone who would stay in town. So
Yeah.
yeah, so he gets his rack of bacon and he's like, I'm gonna get in good with this man, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
figure it out.
And so he goes there and he brings the bacon. But as they're discussing things, there's actually like a language barrier with the word cat. And so what he does is he's like, I know that there's one cat in town. So he goes to basically the bordello, and he's like, and if you don't know what a bordello is, it's a house of ill repute. And so they, not to you, I meant to the listener, sorry. But I just remember my grandmother, I'm sorry, my grandmother painted my room dark purple one year, and she put dark velvet purple drapery, and my grandfather came in, and he was like, why does it look like a bordello in here?
Oh, that's so. Once I mounted a string of lights in my ceiling, and they were red, and people were like, why do you have bordello lighting in
Yeah,
your house?" I was like, "It's cozy, okay?"
it is cozy. Red's a nice color. But anyway, so he goes and he borrows the cat that's from there, and it's a very sweet cat, and he carries it, and then he shows it to the native.
Cordelia.
So yeah, what was her name? Cordelia?
Yeah, he names it Cordelia. He
Yeah.
like he immediately names it Cordelia, even though he doesn't know the cat.
And then he shows it to the native, and the native's like, "Oh, yes, a cat, very, But he doesn't really get any answers, but except for the fact that he didn't know what a cat was, or he wasn't sure what the cat was. And so during this exchange, what ends up happening? What does Chris say? Chris says this was so funny. Arthur going to get pussy at the brothel.
So funny, the pastor goes to the brothel and gets pussy, but it's not what you think.
That's a really good play on words, actually.
And it's cute too because he says to the head woman, he's like, "I'll return her promptly."
Yes, and when he has the cat, and the native like scurries off because the yes,
Yeah,
he
Pinkerton.
comes up and he's like, my name's Dove. I mean, that's not what he sounds like, but
Kind of, it was good.
but he was like, my name's Dove, and he's like, all right, Mr. Dove, and he's like, no, just Dove. And so they end up talking, and as they're talking, basically Arthur learns that he's there to investigate the murders because they're men, a family, a very wealthy family, has gone missing from California, and these are those men.
Yeah, came here looking for a man, and was it 4 sons, I think?
Three, I think it's like three. I don't something like that. But the point is that he was a very well-to-do man. He went missing, and so they're looking for him, and they found so far him and one of the sons, and those were the bodies.
Yeah, and it was weird circumstances because it didn't sound like they had been. It was kind of like they had been abducted because no one knew where they went, but also there were no signs of them having been abducted. No one had asked for a ransom or anything. So the Pinkerton had kind of trains them to this town. And he's like, "Well, you found 2 of them for me. That's not shit. But I was paid to find all 4. So where's the other 2? Do you know?"
Yeah, and of course Arthur's so awkward. He's so weird. He's like, he feels like guilty because he knows he's talking to Good Stab. And I don't even know if he's really connected those dots yet. I think he has he doesn't want to actively acknowledge it in the journal, so you don't really get it. But then also there's this like weird, like, idiotic. Like, he's an idiot when it comes to talking to this guy. I don't know why, but he acts super suspicious, and everybody cottons on to it too. He's
Yeah, he
not
looks
very good with a
he
straight
looks
face.
really he makes himself really awkward, and he's kind of swinging the cat and holding it in his arms. He's like, this here isn't mine. I'm gonna return her, I swear. And the Pinkerton's like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
But also, like, Arthur kind of tells himself that I don't know anything really, which I think is his way of saying he suspects maybe
Yes.
Goodstab had something to do with it, but he has no evidence. So what's he gonna say really? He doesn't even know where a Pinkerton could find a heathen wearing a priest robe. So because that man he had just been talking to wasn't Goodstab, so he's like,
So anyway, the Pinkerton guy's like, well, you know, like, let me know if you think of anything. Or actually, really, it's Arthur. He's like, I'll let you know if I hear anything. Can I contact you through the sheriff and blah, blah, blah. And so they have that little moment. And then they have a moment also with, like, dogs or something. I don't remember what. But anyway, they move on. And then, of course, Arthur and Goodstab meet up yet once again. And the story continues. And
most importantly, Arthur definitely does not return the cat.
no, I know.
He
That's
takes it
so
back to
funny.
the church with him, and he's like, "Here, Cordelia, here's a lot of nice mice for you to eat, and you won't have to talk to those ruffians who come to the bordello anymore."
Like great 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 grandfather, like great 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 granddaughter to some degree. They both
Yeah.
have cats.
Yeah. Cat people.
And yeah, and they're like weird about indoor outdoor stuff. But anyway, the cat actually keeps getting Goodstab comes in, I remember, and he talks about the cat, and he's like, she's hunted, like at one point she like he's like hearing her. This is later on, but he hears her and he's like, she's hunting for a mouse outside, and he's like, Arthur's like, who? And he gets it. And so basically there's like more evidence piling up that he's got like supernatural like senses or sensory or whatever, and he begins telling the story yet again. And Arthur also notices that the food from before was not consumed, which goes along with what Goodstab said about not being able to consume any more real food. But then he's like, well, maybe this is all theatrical and he's just not eating. He's like, but who could say no to a scrumptious meal?
Yeah,
Certainly not
and
Arthur.
he offers him a glass of water that time, I think, and Goodstab just like kind of holds it like.
Yeah. And so the story continues, and basically I feel like we should summarize some of this part. Mostly because there's a lot that happens about going back and forth. What would be some, unless you want to share a quote, you have a quote face on.
I do. Because the story begins after he was shot by those people with the herd of dead buffaloes, and he essentially hides from them by crawling inside a buffalo and staying there for a long while. And then when he emerges, he kind of seeks them out. Because when he emerges from the dead buffalo, a calf is waiting outside the dead buffalo. Because they haven't killed the calves. They don't want to waste the bullets on the calves. So they just leave them to starve to death. And this enrages Goodstab. So he goes after the hunters. And he stalks up to their camp, and he's kind of listening to them. And here we get the quote. I didn't know your Napikwan yet, but I know that he was probably saying that greased shooters cost too much to waste on calves they can't even get good ropes from. Years later, Wolfcalf told me that when soldiers came for Heavy Runner's camp on the Bear, the soldiers didn't want to use their greased shooters up that time either. So they killed the men with axes, the children with the butts of their many shotguns, and the women with the same knives they opened the sides of the lodges with. That was a long time ago, though. But the Pikuni still remember. If there were any blackthorns left, they would remember fields like I was walking through too. Instead of shooting these calves, these Napiquan sets their cups and plates down. Wait. It was broken up. Set their plates down and walked out into the darkness with skins of water. They had dropped your hard yellow whitehorn milk into the skins first and held them over the fire. They went out in pairs, one man holding the open corner of the skin high for a calf to suck from, the other reaching under fast to cut that calf's throat, so that when the blood slipped down, it would have some of that whitehorn milk in it, because the calves would keep drinking even when they were dying. The calves were too hungry and scared to understand what was happening, so they were climbing over their own dead to get close to skins of whitehorn milk. The taste of their blood on the air made me dizzy, even though it would taste wrong. I finally had to fall to my knees, my right hand touching the knotty line on my side that had burst open. It was beating like a heart, so I kept my fingers there. With my eyes like this, I could see the Napiquans, like Sun Chief was out, only riding behind clouds. The Napiquans, to my eyes, were in the sandhills. They were grey and dim, but still living their lives, doing what Napiquans do.
It's so the calf stuff is really like, I mean, all the sad stuff in this book is sad, but like
Yeah,
it's that kind of like it's that combination of the loss of the culture, loss of the history, but like also the loss of like a species, which is in
yeah.
some way well, in some way it is like a direct reflection of what's going on between the peoples. So
Yeah, their fate is kind of intertwined with the Blackhorns, the buffalo's fate.
yeah,
Um,
in more
but
ways than just consumption. But go ahead.
yeah, what he referred to with his skin bursting was that after he was shot, he was so wounded, he had to, like, he crawled inside the buffalo and drank its blood because it wasn't dead yet. They had just skinned it, they had shot it, they had skinned it, and it was left half dead. So he drank it until it died. And because once he starts drinking, he can't stop. And a buffalo has too much blood in it. He just keeps gorging and gorging and gorging until his sides kind of split and he bursts open like a two full wineskin.
He's literally a tick.
Yeah. So basically, he's kind of holding himself together and so enraged about what they're doing to these calves that he goes after them. He kills the whole camp, and afterwards he has the mother's smell on him. So all the
Yeah.
calves that are still alive kind of round up to him. So he rounds them up and he leads them away to a secluded place. And from that day, he's raising the calves. He
Yeah.
becomes their protector, their pseudo mother.
Yeah,
And
he names the white one. There's like a white one that he really connects with that he ends up saving
mhm,
too, because he doesn't want him to be killed by the remnants of the group that remain, and he of the buffalo hunters, and
yeah,
he
and
names
that
him.
one calf is white, dirty white,
Yeah, and he names him after his childhood name, which is what was it
weasel
again?
plume.
Weasel Plume, and so he ends up bringing him, and so he brings him up into the mountains, the backbone again, and this is also where he ends up coming across a boy who I believe was fasting, and he had come up to do the communing with and finding his spirit guide and everything.
Yeah, yeah.
And
The
while this happens, he has an interaction with the boy. The boy's terrified of him, despite his best attempts to try to commune with him. And the boy ends up, actually, what happens is Good Stab ends up setting a fire because he helps the boy by making a fire, but then he just like lets it blaze. And he's like very self-harmy. It's because he
oh
just like
yeah,
burns his
he
eyeballs out when the
it's
boy runs away.
cold and the boy is not eaten, so he's not doing very well. So he kind of asks himself, how can I approach this boy without scaring him too much? So he takes Weasel Plume with him. So he approaches like a Pikuni, because he looks Pikuni at this time, kind of. So he approaches with his white calf and sits down by the fire and talks to the boy. And
The boy tells him what happens to Run's loud. Wait, what was it again? Shake. It was a very important person to him,
yeah,
and the boy explains that this really terrible event happened to the Pikuni.
heavy
They
runner.
Heavy Runner. And
Yeah.
so he explains that a group of soldiers came, and Heavy Runner and the tribe like showed that they had the papers for peace, and it didn't matter. He got shot, and all like everybody was murdered, and in a horrible manner too, because everybody was ill, and
Yeah.
so they couldn't fight back.
Yeah,
And
like
when
in this year in 1870, there was another great battle taking place not that far away between the white men and the Pikuni. And so, but at the same time, the smallpox was going through the tribe again. So High Runner was left there with like the children, the women, the sick, the old, and he had a paper of safe conduct saying that our child was not with them, they were to be given safe harbor. And then the boy.
Yeah, he explains that they were basically murdered. And when Goodstab hears this, he begins like tearing up, and this terrifies the boy. It's because he sees the blood, because when he cries blood. And
Mhm.
so he ends up running off, and that's when Goodstab, like, he's like, oh, I'm so, like, he can't even like commune in this way or say that he's safe. And so he ends up starting a brief fire, and the boy ends up passing out from smoke inhalation. And he's like, oh God, okay, yes. And so he helps also on top of the boy is a raven, and the raven's like caw. And sorry, I don't.
Yeah, and the
That
raven is like it's his spirit animal, and the raven
yeah,
is a very wise, very powerful guide to have. So he takes the raven's feather, and he takes the boy, and he carries him to safety. And
and
then
he leaves the feather with him, so he knows.
using his saliva, he sticks the feather to the boy's forehead, so that when the boy wakes, he'll know that he has communed with the raven.
And so he goes back up to the mountains, and he kind of like, if I
Oh,
recall
and this
correctly,
was how he earned his nickname Full Blood.
yes, that is true. It's because he's full of blood, and that's how the boy ended up. The boy names him that, and then shares the story of him. But I believe, if I remember correctly, he goes up back to the mountains, and he basically just chills with his buffalo herd for like a good long while.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, if I also recall correctly, he's feeding a lot on white men, and so there's
Yeah,
this
he's still
thing.
hunting trappers.
Yeah, so he notices he starts changing as well. He's getting, instead of like having a smooth face, he's starting to get like a European beard. He's starting to get like hair that's a little different. I think actually for a
Yeah,
while he
he
is also feeding off buffalo, and he started getting the buffalo hair too.
yeah, like he notices that his chin is itchy and he has a beard coming in, but he doesn't seem to fully understand what it means until he meets what's his name? Nappy. The one he
Yeah.
calls Nappy.
And is that not just basically the equivalent of like, I mean, it's not the let me just make this super derivative. But I got the gist that it was a trickster character almost. Is that correct?
I sense that Nappy is like a spirit of the land.
Yeah, yeah,
Because he
yeah.
talks about how he sometimes feuds with Father Beaver, who's
Fair enough.
also
Yeah.
a father of the. I don't know enough to say, but it is clearly like he's a supernatural being. He looks like a trapper. So Good Stab approaches him initially to try to eat him, but instead, when he comes too close, he realizes that Weasel Plume is standing with this trapper and letting him pet him, and he's like, "You traitor, Weasel Plume! You should stay away." And the trapper's like, "You didn't think I knew you were out there, did you? There are things more canny than you out here."
Yeah,
And
and well, all I was gonna say is he ends up. Good Stab recognizes him for what he is, and he like kind of gives you the logic that his name is Nappy.
he calls him
Okay.
Nappy.
Okay. So that he wears the face of a white man to almost be funny, in a way, like as in like to, because he's like adopting the new America almost in a weird
Yeah,
way.
kind of like a half joke.
Yeah. And he brings him to his like lodge, which is like in a cave basically.
Yeah,
And
he invites him to talk, and he's like,
yeah,
you know, you're so scornful of them, but you look like them. And he's like, no,
yeah,
I don't. No, I'm not a dirty nappy one. And that's when it kind of puzzles together that that's, you know, he's been eating trappers so long, he's beginning to look like them. And he also makes this really fascinating comment on how once he takes a Piccuni after getting the Piccuni blood makes him realize how dull and slow the white blood had gotten him. And I'm like, that is fascinating
yeah.
because it's an experience that is
He's more in tune with the
transhuman.
earth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's like maybe it's like that. Like I know Asian people digest rice better than us Europeans do because and us Europeans are stinky and sweat a lot.
I took it more as like the Bikuni are more in touch with themselves and with the earth, and because they are, those memories and that experience is carrying over in the blood, whereas the white man is blind to himself as well as to the earth and things around him, and also not as good as a warrior, to be frank. I mean, I'm sure fighting styles are different, and he's more like it kind of insinuates that the fighting style of the Bikuni, or at least his, is like very agile and very like skillful,
Yeah,
whereas
he talked of it like he has naturally like better endurance. His body is naturally agile and
but that would
nimble.
make more sense it's if he's more athletic. Like if he's just literally more athletic and he does more things, then a lot of the trappers and stuff, it seems like they don't take care of themselves because they're always described as like wearing the same stuff for days on end. Their teeth are gross.
They
They
stink.
smell awful because they're not taking care. Like he literally says at one point, and instead of going into the river and bathing themselves, they just reeked of their own stuff. They had like just garbage in their beards, and then also they're drinking a lot of liquor. The liquor is a really big emphasis on distraction in this, and so because like they're drinking liquor and they're relying on guns for violence, where's the athleticism in that for the most part? So I mean, obviously, I'm overgeneralizing. I mean, they're traversing long ranges and stuff, but
That is a fascinating aspect. I was also thinking that maybe as a race kind of at this point white men had become so divorced from the kind of living in
yeah.
which you require these skills and these traits that they had kind of bred themselves slow and dumb. And I was like, that is a fascinating idea.
Yeah, and the I almost wonder. Well, I'll wait on that. Okay, so anyway, so all of that happens, and he talks to Nappy, and he's like, "Okay, so you're gonna go down, and you're gonna feed one more time because you have to, and then you're gonna come up, and you're gonna winter with me, and we're gonna have a long talk."
Mm-hmm.
And so he's like, "What if I don't come up?" And then Nappy's like, stop being a child. You're gonna come back up." And so anyway, he leaves, and then I believe we go back to Arthur, and during this time, let me think. These are like dark days during this time because what ends up happening
Yeah, they
is Dove the
find
pink.
yeah they find another hump, and
Yeah, they
it's
find. Go ahead.
they find the Pinkerton man Dove dead out on the railway.
And he's like
And
stripped, or like he's like ripped up a little bit.
yeah, like he's been run over by a train, or maybe a
Basically,
couple
yeah.
of trains, and
Yeah.
he's also been emptied of blood. And he's in such a state that they kind of have to like gather his pieces together to get him back into town. And no one can quite figure out what he was doing out there. There seems to be no good reason for him to be out there, especially not in his good suit.
And
Uh,
there's another guy in town who also he ends up hanging himself, but in a very strange way. Because what had happened is he had invested all his money in something, and it is a ship. And long story short, he lost everything, and so he goes to end himself, but it's like in a really horrific way. And when the sheriff comes by after they find the body, he shoots the horse that pulled on the guy constructed his own noose and everything, and by the horse pulling it, that's what ended him. And so he shoots the horse, and there's like this focus on again horrible to pets. But anyway, so
yeah, he had invested all his money in goods ferried on the Titanic, which
is that
famously,
what it was?
yeah, which famously sunk in 1912. So when he finds out,
I did not follow that at all
yeah,
whatsoever.
no. So he tied a noose, and then he tied the end of the rope to the horse, and then he skinned the horse's rump to make the horse just keep pulling, like out of pain and fear. Yeah, Chris M says it.
Chris,
The guy
oh my
invested
god,
in the
I didn't
Titanic.
even see. This is how disconnected
No,
from
because it's
history I am.
mentioned. It's mentioned really in passing. Because at first we talk about this
It was
man
the
who hung
maiden
himself.
voyage. I remember that part.
Yes, yes, it was the maiden voyage. And after that, also his wife comes down and she's like, Pastor, do you have the eggs? And she had snuck a dozen of eggs in with another gift from another parishioner. Because she's like, my house is cursed. It's something to do with, because of the bad luck. And it's also mentioned that in that sermon, they pay extra attention to the I don't remember if it's hundreds or thousands, like a lot of people,
Yes. Oh,
yeah,
I
had
didn't
been
even.
lost at sea.
I was not even thinking about that. Oh my god, that's so dumb.
And that's all the mention they make. They never clarify it any closer than that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes sense,
exactly.
Chris.
If you know
Yeah,
the date it sunk, you
yeah.
puzzle it together. It's really fun, actually. It's not fun.
The
It's
Titanic sinking is actually really fun.
I'm sorry. It's an Easter egg. I'm an Easter egg person. I was like,
No, no, no. I love it too. I just like it's so funny. After all the Titanic stuff I grew up on, it's because like the movie was so big and everything. I don't these details don't pop
At
out to
first,
me.
when they said the man had invested in ships, I was like, but if he was in a town like Miles,
I know. I was
but,
confused.
but I know the Titanic carried a lot of goods.
Yeah.
So, and then it was lost at sea, and it was actually sometimes insurance companies sold insurance, and the insurance was lost if you never found out where the ship sunk or something like that.
Yeah, that's
Anyway,
interesting.
but yeah, they just make a really sly mention that they give extra thought to the hundreds of people that sank into the depths of the ocean that day or something like that. And at
Yeah.
that point, because before that I'd been thinking it's not the Titanic, it's gotta
No,
be
it
something
is.
else. But then
So
transatlantic fare was not a common thing back then.
and then after that happens, is this the part where he climbs up the ladder?
I don't know. Maybe. I think the widow comes to him. She's like, do you have the eggs that I gave you? And he had dropped one of the eggs, which Cordelia had lapped up, but he goes and fetches the other eggs that are still there. And weirdly, the woman starts dropping them on the floor to look at the yolk when it's cracking and running out. And she's like, oh, and she drops 4 of them, and she's like, maybe
Maybe I'm wrong.
I was wrong. And then she drops the last egg,
And it's
and the yolk
black.
black, and a putrid stench wafts up from it.
And she's
"Oh,
like
no."
got yeah, and she's like Arthur mentions that number one, a lot of his food's been going bad, which has been a pain in the butt for him, obviously. But then also the woman, when she comes up, he mentions in his journal that she's like kind of like one of the old country women that still like has the stories of things that used to happen that's less religious based and more like
Yeah, kind of the old wisdom.
yeah.
And because they're Lutherans, they haven't like
Really engaged with that
a
a
lot
lot.
of Christian faiths were very militant about what you believe and what you don't.
Yeah.
Whereas Lutheranism was one of those where you were allowed to kind of keep some of your own beliefs and folk traditions and stuff. So she's one of those people who remembers the old tales. Is she the one who says Nachtzehre?
Maybe I would have to go back and look, but she, obviously when he sees that egg, she sees that egg, she scurries off, and he's like, "There's something evil or there's something bad going on in
Yeah,
this
it
house
gives
of worship."
it gives a very bad feeling. And then I think he finds the window. Well,
Yeah, and
the ladder.
yeah, what happens is he's like, I don't recall what urges him to do it. I think he's trying to find out where Cordelia's been getting out, or if there's something else. The cat goes up there, and so he goes up there, and he notices that there's a window, and it's not a window to look pretty. In fact, the one side's made to look like it's part of the building, but it's obviously probably for ventilation. And he's like, man, I wish I had known about this. It's been really sweaty in the summers in the past.
Yeah.
And he notices, more importantly and more terrifyingly, that when he looks into the rafters off to the side, that there's a big section that is not dusty, as if somebody has been there. And he thinks to himself, this window is probably big enough for somebody the size of, say, somebody I've been talking to in the evenings about his story and his past to be able to fit through. In fact, I might be able to fit through there if I tried real hard. And while he's up there, he's so shocked by the dust thing, and he gets so scared, he brings both his hands up, and because all his weight is leaning onto the ladder a certain way, it breaks, and he basically goes all the way down and breaks through all the rungs. But luckily he doesn't fall, even though his hands are torn up. He gets a lot of splinters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But and, it is that one who talks about the laughter for the first time.
Are you looking for a quote?
Yeah, she's about to drop the last egg, and a dog shows up and jumps up and snatches the egg in its mouth, and they're like, "Oh, we're safe." But then the dog kind of pauses and then spits it back out. Then it opened its mouth and let the egg run uneaten. "Oh," Frida said, steepling her hands over her mouth and stepping back alongside me. What protection I could offer, I know not. This egg's yolk and its clear barrier were oily black. The egg had turned just like the milk had. "Nachser," I heard Frida mutter. Only once, but once was enough. And directly after this, he finds the rafter, and this is when Arthur is still not ready to face the fact that he's starting to believe Goodstab, but he clearly is beginning to believe Goodstab, because he looks at that beam, the rafter that has no dust on it. He's like, "Oh my god, it is just large enough for an Indian in a priest's suit to sit on it."
And to watch me as I scribble away, and as I've been getting drunk in the evenings and eating and all this, he's been watching me this whole time.
He goes full paranoid immediately.
Yeah, and he has the cat on him at all times. It's because she can hear better than he can and see better than he can.
It's funny because it's a little ridiculous, but at the same time, you kind of understand that he's right about it too.
Yeah. And he also ends up going to the saloon at one point, and number one, he ends up making a deal with some of the lodgers where the Pinkerton man was, and he takes some of the mail that the Pinkerton man had, including the photos of the family of the missing people. And then he also ends up going to visit the sheriff at the saloon to say, "Hey, you really need to go arrest this Native American. He's definitely the one killing everybody." And the sheriff doesn't really believe him because there's no evidence, which is crazy to me. I feel like the sheriff would be like, "All right, let's get going. I hate everybody that doesn't look like me." But surprisingly, he's like kind of like not reluctant per se, but it's like a burden. And so he gets up and he makes a deal with him. Go ahead.
Oh, before this,
yes,
the sheriff goes out. Yeah, the sheriff goes out twice to try to find this weird Indian. And the first time, it's kind of a ruse to lure people away from the Pinkerton man's remains, like his personal belongings, because the pastor is like, I must go through them and see if I can find out more about why he was here. And in order to do this, he asks the local patrons if they can kind of help him by sending someone off on a wild goose chase and kind of keep watch if they return early, to kind of just stall them for a moment. And one of the men who helps him, he's like, "I could use a fine hat like that." Oh, like that Pinkerton.
It would have only been better if you had accidentally fallen out of your chair in addition to that.
Never mind.
As you were saying.
Anyway, the man takes the Pinkerton's bowler hat, and he's like, I have a fancy new hat now. And the pastor, he takes some of the Pinkerton man's personal belongings, and most notably some letters, which he later reads and kind of finds out that what the family is named. I can't remember
Yeah.
exactly what he finds out. Her
Yeah,
name's
he finds out
Flowers.
also, I believe. Oh no, that comes up later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, basically, it wasn't that fruitful though. It was just a little bit more
Yeah.
evidence towards the
Yeah.
victims.
And after that, the sheriff is kind of like, oh, you crazy old man. But after he finds this rafter thing, he's like, this is getting spooky.
Yeah,
It's not making me popular with the sheriff, but I need to get him to try to apprehend Goodstab. Um,
how he thinks the sheriff can accomplish that if Goodstab's telling the truth is beyond me. But whatever.
I think it's kind of funny and telling that he does not even seem to reflect on this. He just seems very eager to sort of shuffle the problem onto the sheriff
Somebody
instead.
else. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I think that this is kind of part of the flaw in his character that he's kind of running from.
And then I think the next thing that happens is Goodstab comes back and he sits with him and they do their typical thing. But right now, Arthur's like, he's not comfortable with this exchange so much anymore. And you're also getting the emphasis that Goodstab is here telling him this for a reason. This is part of his revenge in some way, but Arthur is unsure how he is connected.
Yeah,
He knows, I
like,
think, a little
good.
bit, but
The pastor is beginning to ask, why did he choose me? What sinister plan does he have
yes.
for coming here? He even cancels mass to try to get out of meeting
Yeah.
Goodstab, and Goodstab just shows up anyway. Because, oh, is this the scene where he's been Jesus?
No, that's
No,
not
that's
yet.
later.
Yeah, that was a great scene. No, but so what happens is he tells the next part of the story, which I believe is when he meets the Catman again. We've skipped actually. What happens is that if I recall correctly, hold on one second. I'm thinking. Yeah, no. Does he lodge with Nappy before or after he meets the Catman again? I think it's I think he sees the Catman, lodges with Nappy, and
then is that he goes down to the valley one last time to eat before winter, and he because if he wants to stay Pikuni, he needs to consume Pikuni. So he kind of
I remember
approaches
what happened.
his little clan, the
short
Amskapi
robes?
Pikuni, yeah, the short robes, and he sees runs on the sides tent, and
Yeah,
like he has a moment of like sadness, and then he sees one tent that is kind of like set on the side.
Yeah, it's before Catman. Sorry, I got it.
Yeah.
I forgot why he was injured at this moment, and now I just remembered it's from the smoke. So anyway, as we were saying, sorry.
Yeah, so he sits on the side and he sees one of the tents is like isolated from the others, and he knows that this is one of the old people have announced that they're ready to pass into the sandy shores.
Sandhills, close.
Why am I so bad at old? Anyway,
Well, to be frank, the shorelines are also used for the afterlife, so it's like really close.
oh, yeah.
But
into the sandhills.
yes, and
So he kind of opens the flap of the tent and sees that
it's an
the
old
woman
woman that
inside
used
is-
to be
yeah,
it was
the
the mother
yellow-haired
of
woman.
Tall Dog.
yeah, she's the woman of the mother of Tall Dog, and he kind of this makes him very sad because he remembers his past, and he remembers how he would ask his father Wolf Cub to tell the story of his mother, because his mother died when he was young. And one of the famous stories was how his mother and a yellow-haired woman had quarreled, and how they had kind of come to blows. And just as Goodstab's mother could have like hit a yellow-haired woman and won the fight. She lowered her weapon. She had a stone or something. I can't
I think it was
remember.
a log or something, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was a wooden log, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, she lowered her weapon, and they never fought again. And as he kind of cries about this, the woman wakes up, and she's like, "You're the full blood," because she sees his tears. And he says yes. And she, I don't remember, he confesses that he is Goodstab. And
Yeah, it's
she
something to
tells
that
him
effect.
that they went out and they found the other's remains, but his bones weren't there. I think his father tells him that actually. But the woman figures out, she's like, "You take no scalps," because the fact that he hunts the buffalo hunters is
Mm-hmm.
known with the people. And he is known because he takes no scalps. So they know that he is not of them, kind of. And he sort of confesses to that. And as she kind of gives up her final breath,
He drinks from her.
he drinks from her until she passes, and this really torments him. Uh,
But at the same time, it's like coming home because it's his people that he drank. So
mm-hmm.
it's like, and then when he steps outside because he notices that there's somebody right there, and it's his father. And so his father and him talk, and it's this reminiscing. And I think that's actually when I think the story about his mom and the woman
Yeah,
inside.
yeah, it's his father,
But
because his
his father's
father is like
smoking
good
from.
stab and tells him
And
how they found the raiding party and how they're all dead, but his bones weren't among them. And he's like, he kind of regresses to a child, and he's like, "Tell me a story, mother," again,
yeah,
and he
exactly.
does.
And he used to do that, but his father wouldn't usually like tell him many stories, and so his father tells him the story, and they have like this kinship moment of, you're my father, you're my son, and they recognize that in each other, and they even almost have a really wholesome moment after, where this thing that has been passed down in generations, the pipe, which is made out of these two pieces, is handed over to Goodstab from his father, and Goodstab takes a huge deep breath of it, but it constricts all his blood vessels because it has nicotine in it, and so he all the like it's just no good for vampires or whatever the heck he is, and so he ends up like sort of suffocating. And he drops the pipe and it breaks, and he's like so horrified that he's broken this like ancestral piece, and as he's like, and it's like really sad too, it's because then he starts backing up and he falls onto the tent where the woman is, and he's just like there, and he's like struggling, and there are people coming,
Mm-hmm.
and his father ends up stabbing the one part of the pipe into his throat so he can breathe, and he runs him out, and he's in and out of consciousness, and the his father ends up handing him over to Nappy, and Nappy takes him, and that is when he lodges with Nappy in and out of consciousness, not really being alive or dead, in the cave for 2 winters, so for 2 years. And while he's that, Nappy is speaking to him in basically, I think it's English. I don't know if it's German or English or what, but I think it's English.
Yeah.
And he talks to him, and he talks to him so much in English that basically once Goodstab wakes up again, his mind is almost working in English. And
Mm-hmm.
and which he struggles with at first. It's because he's like, what, can I even remember before? And he can
Yeah,
access it.
he's so afraid of losing his culture and his heritage. Like the part of why it pains him so much to drink Bikuni is that he cannot bear to lose his identity, but at the same time, in order to be close to it,
He'd
he
have to
must
drink it.
consume what he loves. And now just speaking the American tongue is kind of affronting him, and he's really afraid that if he speaks it too long, he'll forget.
Yeah. And so Nappy's like, get with the times, bud. I don't, and he also is like really upset, and he's like thinking about, oh, and we learned that Nappy has been feeding him from himself. And so he tastes like he's gained something extra from that, from consuming Nappy. He's like, also kind of inherited a part of the land that can't be, in a way, ever corrupted because he carries that memory of it within him, which
Yeah,
is
when he
really nice. I liked
tastes
that.
Nappy, he tastes the land, like everything that makes up of the land. It's not delectable human blood. It is something else. It is something deeper. And also all the stories Nappy has been kind of whispering into his ear as he has nursed him through winter is part of their cultural heritage now, and he feels that this is something
He has to carry.
of yeah, because especially because the spoken tradition is like you carry your culture
You have to
with
speak
you,
it.
and the true loss of identity is can be a loss of forever. Like it's very dark and scary.
Chris made a good point too. He also says something about how the older and more knowledgeable Pikuni make for better drink because they connect him better to his culture because the memories of it live on stronger and they're older
I actually
stories.
have a couple of quotes on that point, but
Yeah.
they come later on in the story, I think. Yes, they come closer to the end.
Okay, do you want to wait then to share them or do you want to share them now?
Well, okay. So one of the things that that Goodstap talks to Arthur Bucrane about is that he has figured out that you become what you eat. So once like he has had more than he can take of this world, he's gonna eat dirty faces, as he calls mice, and until he becomes one. So this is from an interaction with Arthur, and he says, "You ask why I don't eat dirty faces, like I was saying. Your little hunters, mice. And that's another reason. When I die, all of Napi's stories die with me. Tall Dog was sad about that bundle he found in the camp of the dead, and how he had to leave it there to blow away and become nothing. And now I'm that bundle, sitting in the camp of all the people I've had to feed on since Catman. Their dead eyes watching me. Someday I will dry up and blow away like they're waiting for, I know. But not today, three persons. Not yet."
And of course, the reason why he calls them three persons, we didn't say this, it's because the Father Horn,
Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
yeah, exactly, as the man of faith. So anyway, so he comes out of Nappy's lodge with a lot more, honestly. And it's kind of, I thought this was a really cool part. It's because it really identifies him in an especially unique way when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
like vampire lore or representation. He's not just like a creature feature. He's also a creature feature with extra potentially godlike things within him just for storytelling. So he ends up coming. What is this when he?
This is when he meets the Catman
Yes.
again, and he
Yeah.
ends
Doesn't
up
he go
wounded.
to see Weasel Plume, and or something like that? And then
Oh
that's
yeah,
when
he
he's
returns to Weasel Plume, and he finds. Or he goes to the fat traders, I think he's
yeah,
called them, or the fat gatherers,
yeah.
who are another tribe of Blackfeet, and he because he's gonna commune with that boy, with the feather boy. No, one of their horse boys, like who watches after the
Mm-hmm.
horses. He's met with him and talked with him a little bit before, and he respects that boy. So he goes to kind of see him. At one point, he also had to drink the boy's sister. She had received a blow to the head, so she was
In a vegetative state.
yes, and that really tormented him. So he kind of goes back because he feels bound to them now, like he has taken something from them, he owes them. And instead, he finds the boy dead and
Yes,
sucked
that's right.
dry. And the
They all
boy's
think it's
body,
him.
yeah, the boy's body is lying on a white pelt, weasel plume's pelt, well, weasel plume's skin. As a kind of, because the boy had
Calling
told
card.
the story. Yeah, everyone knows of the full blood with the white bison. So it was kind of like, it was Catman's way of framing him for
In a
this.
funny way, it's literally what happened at the beginning of the story when they're framing each other. He's framing him. for this death. And so he goes up to, I think at this point we also have a break in the story and we might go back to Arthur for a bit, but basically he goes up to
Yes, it's back to Arthur, but I can't remember what Arthur actually does.
that's fine. We're at, I think we're at a good time where we can probably summarize some of the finer bits.
Yeah.
But he runs back up and oh, what a absolutely stellar description of a horrifying creature. I loved this part so much because basically picture a Wendigo. Basically, like an elongated limbed creature that's a little too tall, like way too tall, and it has antlers and a really screwed up looking face. And so it's sitting.
Have you seen the filmatization of The Passage?
Wait, say that again.
The Passage, I think, or The Right?
Is this a movie?
Yes, it's a movie. It's about four Brits
the ritual.
who go wandering.
The ritual.
The Ritual. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
that's a love. Yeah, it's just, well, I didn't picture it quite like that because
Not quite,
that
but-
Loki was too brawny. But yeah, no, the
it's a great horror creature. Like, it's taller than a man. It's like I picture it as kind of corpse-like and uncanny in that it is reminiscent of humanish, but it's clearly not.
yeah.
And its features are drawn out and animal-like, and it talks.
The most horrifying part isn't even the visage. He's basically like just lounging. At one point, he's just like hanging out like on Weasel Plume, his corpse, his skinned corpse, and everything. And he's talking to Good Stab in a very, very almost contemporary fashion. He's very easy with words. It comes out, and we get these like really cool lines that he throws off. He's like, I've been around for 450 years or something like that. He's like, don't try to lecture me. You're just a child. You're not even that. You're a country bumpkin is basically what he calls him.
And he says, you're a mistake.
Yeah, and he's like, and then I know he doesn't quite say it there, but at one point, and I love this, it's because every time you get like a Dracula monologue or something like, Dr. Sleep. You know the scene where the old man is dying and she's Rose the Hat is like, you have taken down empires. You have had queens and princesses as your concubines and things like that. So it's like this really grand, like, you've been here forever. You've taken the... That is what our Catman does. He's like, you have no idea what I could do. I can do things you could never imagine. And you have no idea what you can do. And you will never be able to do it because I won't tell you.
Yeah.
And he's kind of bitter and petty, too, towards him for no reason, in my opinion. Because it's not Good Stab's fault that he was captured and he was fed, like, whatever it is that he was fed. And he, like, you know, so on and so forth. But for some reason, he really has it out for Good Stab. He's, like, really being nasty.
He feels like the Nachzeder in the guise of the evil spirit who does things out of malice, and he has lived so long and seen so many things, and he has so little left that means anything to him, that everything is just about his whims and his momentary pleasure and interest. And his most contemporary slight that he can hinge his attention on is Good Stab.
Yeah. And, oh wait, hold on a second. Chris says, fun fact, the Catman is the age Vlad Tepes would have been if he were alive at the same time the story was told. I know, I also thought of that. I did pick up on that, though.
And he did come on the boats across the water.
That's what I was going to say. Good Stab notes that he must have traveled across the sea because he's from other places.
Yeah.
But anyway...
Never said, but it's a funny little. That was a really, thank you, Chris.
Yeah, you really got the dates down. So anyway, they have this discourse, and long story short, they're like, "All right, it's battle time!" Dun 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 dun. And so they end up fighting. It's because Good Stab's like, "You've taken away one of the few good innocent pieces of this part of my life."
He didn't just kill Weasel Plume. He has killed. He has skinned the whole herd He hasn't killed them. He has just skinned them and left them to die.
Yeah, and Weasel Plume is still alive too, and Goodstab has to kill him. It's because he's still strong enough that he could be alive, despite losing his skin. So anyway, they have this like fight, and long story short, the Catman leaves him in
Sorry.
are your kitty cats being kitty cats?
My cats are. Vad snäll. Jag var snäll. Gunpowder, Gunpowder pounces on Pamela, and Pamela's a nice little lady, and she does not appreciate being sat on, so she screams bloody murder.
Oh my god, that's so funny. Which also Gunpowder for a cat name is awesome. But anyway, as is Dazzler, just throwing Val some strays, but good strays.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the Catman leaves him like, he's like, it's really hard to kill us, but you can like suffer. And so he like breaks all the bones in his body and everything and leaves him in a ditch and like goes off. And Goodstab, I love your like cat. You're like, are you gonna do it again? And Goodstab ends up like, eating, I think he eats a couple fish first, and then he starts doing this other stuff, and he's eaten. And so he finally is well enough that he goes down to see what has happened. It's because he's worried about what the Catman has done. And lo and behold, he sees his old tribe, but the Catman is the tribe leader now, and he looks like a Pikuni. And he's like basically very malicious and like lying to them and saying like, and also at this point, Goodstab also looks like a Westerner yet again, but like really hardcore. He's got blue eyes and everything. And so when he walks into camp, the natives are his like brethren, or the remnants of his tribe are all like, ew, you. The Catman is like, oh, let's just like tie him up, and and it's like this inverse, which is awful. It's because Goodstab, the true Pikuni, is now like sheathed in the skin of an outsider, and the outsider is now sheathed in the skin of the Pikuni. And so in a way, with the skins, with the buffalo skins as well, that's like very like, I don't know, very thematic. And so he like talks down to him, and he talks to him like he is a Westerner and an outsider, and it's like this big slap in the face, spit in the face, everything in the face. And he ends up getting tied up, and there's this little girl that's being really kind to him.
They tie him up and leave to go hunting.
Yeah, and they're like, if you survive, you survive.
We'll deal with you when we come back. Maybe in 7 days, maybe in 14, who knows?
Yeah, and so while he's there, the kids are actually really kind to him, and they end up like tying his eyes closed because they notice that the sun hurts him. And there's this girl named, what is it, Kills in the Water? Or... something like that. But she's like, she doesn't like verbalize things, and she's really sweet and tries to feed him. He ends up breaking out, feeding himself, coming back, tying himself back up because he doesn't want anything bad to happen to his people, so he's not going to run away. And when they come back from their hunting trip, the Catman basically like does a ritual.
He smells the deer on him, and he's like, oh, you're canny.
Yeah. He's like, what are you doing? What's your game here? And so he basically insults Goodstab and the Pikuni by having them do something that's out of turn.
Yeah, he forces them to do the sun ritual, I think they call it. And they're like, it's not the right time for this ritual. But then he says like, oh no, but the children can do it, surely.
Yeah.
Because they're not. And Goodstab keeps thinking about how terrible it is, because it's so wrong, and you can tell that all the people know and feel that,
because they're like
wrong.
Crying as they're doing it too.
The children are crying, and they kind of, he doesn't go into detail of what they do to him, but they make him dance.
It's just not good, and he's harmed. And then after this happens,
well supposedly he dies. The chief, Catman,
that's right,
takes him up, and he passes out from this torture.
That's right, yes. This is like a horrifying sequence, by the way, guys.
The Catman takes him, puts him in a cage, and buries him in ice.
Yeah, he melts the ice high up in a glacier area in the backbone, and he melts the ice just enough to. And Good Stab gets out of the cage at one point, but he notices that these ice caves don't have a roof, and he's like, I don't know if the Catman made these himself or if this has already been here, but he must have been here before because there's like tons of bodies and some of the it's like horrific. It's like great. It would be a great video game sequence. But like the bodies are like half frozen, almost like decor into the
Yeah.
walls and onto the ceiling and stuff.
Yeah, and he's like
And
he's probably been living here for years, and it's rather gruesome too to get out of the cage. He has to at one point like rip his own arm off and use the bone from the stump to kind of pick away at the ice to get himself free.
yeah,
And he
and
realizes that the Catman has like closed up all the exits.
yeah, and what he's doing is really bad too. He's basically melting apart, throwing somebody down there, anybody, and then just refreezing it. So that way he's Good Stab is forced to consume and eat and live, but in this horrible solitude of cold.
Yeah, like he is keeping him and he's torturing him. He's playing with him like a cat with a mouse, and he's really
Literally.
taking pleasure. And he's taking pleasure in both giving him napiquans, but also sometimes giving him pikuni, and he doesn't get to choose. Like that is the horrible. Like he has this code for how he does it, and he tries to do as least harm as possible. And now he just doesn't have any choice. He must feed.
So finally, at one point, he is able to, like, he comes across a piece of arrowhead flint in somebody's body, and he uses all the old hair from the corpses to basically make a fire. And he melts a part of it, and he escapes finally. And when he makes it his way back down to the village,
Before he does that, he seeks out a trapper and attacks the man. And I just have a short interquote.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, please.
So he the first trapper he comes across, he's like he is starving. He needs food. When he burned himself out, he kind of hurts himself, so he has to kind of heal up because he needs to be strong if he's gonna have any shot against Catman, and he needs to kind of save his tribe from Catman. So he finds out the trapper. And the quote is, the trapper tried to use one of the antlers to kill me, but I batted it away, held him to the ice by the neck, and asked him in Napiquan about the world past the ice. This is how I learned that the Pikuni were starving, that the buffalo had been shot out, that Nitoxinan was getting smaller and smaller, and that soon it would be so small that we would all fall off the edge of it into America.
Yeah, there's just no more space left for them. So he goes down to no. Before he goes down, as he's like doing things up in his realm of in the mountains, he ends up coming across two children, and one of the children is the girl that was helping him before, and he kind of gets the idea that they've all scattered and run away.
Yeah, they seem to have fled. So Kills in the Water and her brother.
Yeah, here
gone
I'm gonna
way
let you
too
continue
far
with this.
south.
Let me go turn off my Roomba because it's gonna get picked up. I'm sure Will's already like grinding his teeth.
I hear
editing.
it.
Here, give me 1 second. Go ahead, continue narrating though.
He surmises that something has happened. The children, Kills in the Water and her brother, have fled up north. They're bedraggled. They're in a state that the boy is not doing well, and they're way too far north up the mountain for this season. And he surmises in his mind that they have come here to hide. They have come here like only extremity have driven them this far up. So he tries to approach them, and they, unlike when he was in camp, now he is crying tears of blood, and Kills in the Water. No, he's not crying. Kills in the Water looks at him at first because he tries to address them and like beckon them closer, and she looks at him and she shudders back. And at that time, he realizes that the Catman has shown his true colors because she looks at his feet where he does not fall through the snow. And humans fall through the snow. So she recognizes him as the enemy. So instead, he's like, I have to try to keep my distance, but he wants to do something good for them anyway. So he kind of creates a deadfall, and he kind of lures them into the deadfall so they'll have a shelter, and he provides them with dry firewood before he goes down. And he's like, I have to kill the Catman.
Yeah.
But I don't know how.
And so he ends up going, he finds that the Catman's tent is now far away from where all the other tents had been. And when he goes in, he sees a girl that's been drained dry, if I recall correctly. And the Catman comes up to him and finds him there. And he's like, I they tricked me. And he's like, they spread her blood on everybody, and then they ran in all different directions. And we learned that Kills in the Water has a special type of blood. And this is when Good Stab learns that there are apparently every like 100 or so years, basically once a lifetime, there's a chance that you can come across somebody whose blood is different from everybody else's blood, and it's like super good. A la Stephanie Meyer a little bit. But anyway,
Yeah, it's so goddamn tasty.
yeah. And so
I think it's like a drug analogy almost. Like it's like that really good hit.
yeah, it is. It is definitely like that. That's the way the Catman describes it. And so he says, "Give me that girl, or else." And he's like, "How about I give you that girl and you leave this place forever?"
Yeah.
And he's like, and so they barter. And so he's like, "Fine, you have 1 day to bring her back to me." And if, in fact, at one point he's like, "No, bring me with you. Why would I wait for you to come back? Just bring me to her." And he's like, "No," and he like ends up persuading him otherwise. And what he ends up doing is he tells the Catman that he'll meet him at the Dead Lodge, or the tents for the dead, I guess.
Yeah.
And he goes out, and he doesn't go up to Kills in the Water. Instead, he gathers a herd, if I'm not mistaken. But a herd of what? Is it buffalo?
Yeah, he climbs far, far north up the old mountain. Up so far that the Napiquans haven't, because the Napiquans have been shooting up the bison down in the valley in Latoxiwan, but up in the mountains is a bit of another. So somehow he finds them. I assume we're supposed to think that they have come north to eat the bark of the trees during winter and to escape from the white people. I don't know. Somehow he finds a whole herd of bison, and he herds them down into the valley, and
He basically creates a stampede.
he spooks them into a frenzy. So they all stampede over the Catman.
And the Catman's all crunched up, but he also just drank a younger person's blood, and so Good Stab knows that he's going to bounce back real quick.
Yeah, he's going to regenerate faster.
And so what he ends up doing is, so they have a little bit of a scuffle, but the big thing is he knows that he comes up with an idea, and he goes up to where Kills in the Water is, and he finds that unfortunately her brother has died from the cold, and so she's there alone. And so he grabs her, and she ends up holding on to him, much like his daughters did. And so it makes him feel like a man again, briefly, which was really sad. It's because with her weight added on to his weight, he goes through the snow, which makes him feel more alive. Yeah.
And he's thinking, like, this is my last turn, my last...
Yes.
The last time I touch my daughter, the last time I run as a man, the last time I can live without being completely damned.
Yeah, and
but before we get that last scene,
technically we go back to Arthur. Yeah.
Because,
and now we get this really cool scene. This is definitely the climax of the book for the most part. Arthur, doesn't he get knocked out cold? Because he tries to leave town.
Arthur is gone completely paranoid. He knows at this point that the Naxer, Good Stab, is after him specifically, and Arthur knows what he has done to deserve Good Stab's scorn as a Bhikkhuni. But he hasn't actually admitted to it and told the reader yet. But he knows, and he's super paranoid, and he keeps looking to see if Good Stab is up in the rafters. And so he's alone in the church, and it's nighttime, and Cordelia is missing. And suddenly he hears a voice, because it's Good Stab. And he's like, "Where are you?" And the rafters are all empty. And you go ahead.
I'm not going to say the lo and behold part. So Arthur looks up. The voice is coming from up, And he sees that there is a figure on the crucifix, but it is not the typical figure. In fact, it looks just like it. It is not the same skin color his skin is. It was the skin color of a man who had to traverse deserts, just like his lord. And so he realizes that mayhaps this new figure, who is actually Goodstab, might have been up there in a perversion of the religion all this time, and in a way also representing what happened to his people. And he's up there, and he just like pops on down, and he's just like, "Sup."
Yeah, and Arthur's like, Jesus Christ, and he's like, not quite. And he's like, what did you do with him? And he's like, well, he's stowed away somewhere. Well, his head is currently resisting in the bottom of a water trough down by the saloon, but his body is stowed away somewhere.
Yeah, and they is this. This part is when he starts telling him the Catman tale, is it not? When he actually, like, we kind of skipped over that before. Is this when that
I
happens?
feel like Arthur passes out, and
Is that what happens? I couldn't remember.
Goodstab kind of breaks him into confessing who he is before he forces him to hear the last bit of the tale.
And he does put Arthur himself up on the crucifix as well. And in the pews, he ends up seeing, I'm assuming, what little remains of the city, or the
Yeah.
town or whatever.
First, in first row are the men from San Francisco, the Flowerses. Like he's dug up one of them, and one of them had been disentombed because the Pinker man wanted to collect the body and take it back to San Francisco. And then the other two, who were hereunto not found, are now dead too.
And
The
one of them's
Pinkerton
still
is there.
glistening too because he's freshly skinned.
Yeah,
And yep, and then Pinkerton guy was there. We also had the
the
lodgers.
sheriff.
Even dogs. The dogs were even all like propped up, like they're watching him from the pews. And this is where Goodstab ends up getting Arthur to confess in a way, of, if I'm not mistaken, of or not Arthur to confess. This is where, excuse me, this is where he ends up telling Arthur who the men really are, the men that were missing from California. And
Yeah.
what we learn is that Arthur had actually had been kind of like in love, but also just like seeking comfort from a woman with red hair, who was in a house of ill repute herself back
Yeah,
when
he had
he was
started
younger.
a little offshoot. Like he explains that the Lutheran pastors can get married, but he never did. Instead, he sought out carnal pleasures in a time of extremity, and he never knew that anything had come from it. But Goodstab has traced this back to its thinnest tincture and gathered all of these distant relatives to put before him now to witness the
His
confession.
sin. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he realizes, oh my god, he had a family and now they're all skinned and dead. Because of his sin that he committed in the past, which is, and shall we just explain what that is now?
Yes.
Okay. So what we learn is the event that happened that was really tragic.
Yeah, that happened on the day that Goodstab was up with his friends in the mountain and they found the Catman for the first time. At the same time, the massacre of High Runner and the camp happened.
Heavy
And
runner,
this
right? Or
Heavy
was it
Runner.
higher?
Yeah, Heavy Runner.
Yeah.
And the soldiers that performed this massacre had been looking
influenced.
for Owlchild,
Yeah.
but instead, and even though the priest who was with them tried to say that this was the wrong camp, they, when Heavy Runner came out with his paper of safe passage, the commander gunned him down. And once the commander opened fire, his soldiers
Everybody else
did
did too.
too. And then once they got started, they had to keep going. And we find out that Arthur Ukraine was the pastor there who
And what we also learn, he has this letter that got sent back to him, and he keeps it. And we know, obviously, that Goodstab has already read it for various reasons, and we don't know what the letter actually says until towards the end. But what we learn in this event is that, ironically, and maybe not so ironically, Arthur had wanted to know what it was to sin and carry the heft of sin in order to better serve his people, which I find to be a very selfish reason to go do something, but whatever. And
yeah, but
so,
as he kind of says to Good Stab when he's kind of confronted with his own duplicity and double standards, he tries to be like, oh, we didn't mean to, oh, it was a mistake, and then finally he's like, they were just Indians.
yeah, that was so good. But what we learn is that I know I'm going out of order. Is that okay?
No, that's fine.
Okay. So Arthur went off with the group, during the time right before the massacre happened. And the
Yeah, he
thing
was
is their
gonna
whole,
see the gears turning that were
yeah,
churning and creating this new nation. And, it
exactly.
was gonna be greatness and glory. And instead, they were cold, they were hungry, they were
He
outstripping
lost
their
his
supply
toes to
wagons.
frostbite.
Yeah,
And more importantly, he was hungry. He was so hungry. And so
he kept
he,
begging the commander to turn back to the supply wagons because they got stalled in the snow, and the commander was like, "No, no, we push on."
yeah,
Until
and
he was basically so sick and so fucking tired of marching that when they came upon Heavy Runner's camp, and the question was raised of whether it was because one of the guides said that this
bye,
this isn't the
Chris.
right camp. Hey, bye, Chris. Sorry, bye, camp. I'm so my brain is slowly cooking. Anyway, they had been guided up there by one of the locals, and the local was like, "No, no, no. These aren't the men you're seeking. These are peaceful people." And
And others like, just kill him and get it over with so we can go back to the food.
yeah, that was basically
Basically.
what happened. The commander was like, "This guy is probably lying, right?" And Arthur was like, "Yeah, probably." Just
Yeah.
kidding. Because he figured that they would just shoot the leader and be done with it. So he was like,
But
"I'm so fucking hungry. Just shoot him so we can go home and
yeah.
eat." But instead, everyone else, like, there's a kerfuffle, people start shooting, and once they start going, they feel like they're just gonna have to. And then they execute the massacre as it was described to Good Stab. They don't want to waste any more bullets after they did the initial salvo, so they axe the men. They crush the orphan skulls with the butts of their rifles. They cut the women with knives, and it's just
They
it
committed a
is.
genocide.
Yeah, they did. And they committed a genocide that history has entirely forgotten about because it happened on the same day that the big battle where Owl Runner was taken down occurred. So this has just completely disappeared in everyone's mind. And Arthur was just disgusted, distraught, like startled out of his mind. So he kind of got shit drunk and stumbled into a brothel and had his encounter with the woman who later became the mother of his brood that he never knew he had. And this is
And
what he's been running from all these years.
there's this also one other really gross aspect. While he's crucified and Good Stab is speaking with him and he has the dead
Oh,
flock
yeah.
basically watching
Mm-hmm.
him, the sheriff is body is thrown on top of a fire or something like that. The point is there's some cooking meat smell, and it reminds Arthur of how delicious the smell of cooking meat was that he smelled during the burnings
Yeah.
after that genocide.
Yeah. So he's like, weeping at his lowest point, and at the same
Yeah.
time he can't, like, it is very
Heavy.
effective. Yeah, it's very heavy, and it's very disgusting in that, and debasing in that sense of
Yeah.
his body is completely betraying him. Like, he doesn't want to, but his mouth waters and he can't.
You don't have to be a vampire to be damned.
Yeah,
So anyway, Good
yeah, and
Stab,
he's like, just kill me and be done with it.
and he does
And at this
not kill
point,
him.
Good Stab is like, no, I'm not done with you. You're gonna hear the last bit of my tale. And here we have the last quote I have gathered for you. Because Good Stab, they talk a little bit before they keep going. And Good Stab says, "It made me wish the Piccuni had been there when those first boats landed, waiting on the shore on that ocean with the great-toothed fish swimming in it. But we wouldn't have known, would we? We would have wanted the iron kettles, like you said, and we would have been one boatload, and there would only have been one boatload of you, so what would that even matter? Except now your shiny wheels are cutting the land up in smaller and smaller pieces. I don't even know what to fight anymore, three persons. The backbone is a playground now for Napikwan to come look at. The Pikuni live in lodges at the gates, and the bear isn't the bear anymore, so even Heavy Runner is being forgotten." And that is like one of the final heavy hitters of like what I felt were thematic with this story, like the how the entire massacre was forgotten and how their entire heritage is being forgotten, and how against his will, in order to remain what he is part of the force that is like consuming his people, and it brings him a lot of shame and sorrow.
You know what's also an interesting maybe you can say it like this, but also the natives who remain have to wear the clothes. Not literally in this story per se, but sorry. Not literally from this story. And not but from what we know of history, we know that children, orphans were taken and dressed in Western clothing and replaced everything with Western ideas and concepts and language. And so it's almost, he's being so loud. Anyway, sorry about that.
Yeah, it's like an ongoing erasure, and it's
Well, it's not just that.
so.
What I was going to get at is just like the Catman, just like the vampirism aspect, they have to wear the skin of another thing, and they no longer are what they were.
Yeah, yeah. Like in order to survive, you consume and change.
Yeah, yeah. And you have to change in order to continue to live. Nothing can
Yeah, like
last
the
forever.
refusal to change is what is killing you, kind of.
Yeah. And so,
In that,
anyway,
in the way that, of course, it's the white people killing you. But in
yeah,
the sense of themes,
yeah.
and that is the humongous tragedy. And now we are going to hear the last bit
Yes.
of Good Stab's story.
So from this point, he explains that he ran with the girl, kills in the water, and she grabbed onto him. He goes through a lake, basically, and he gets to that island I mentioned earlier where he put all the traps forever ago. And so you ought to automatically know what his plan is. His plan is to have the traps help stall the Catman in some way. And so he's using, and we finally learn, we didn't bring this up at all, but it's constantly mentioned that there's this way that he was taught from another, it's a technique from another tribe of how to catch a
Swift Runner.
I think.
Yeah.
And so he uses it here, which is basically use bait. And he's using the girl as bait. And so as the cat, oh my gosh, my dog is being
Yeah,
so
and
annoying.
he hates the trick because it's a crow trick to catch
Yeah.
Swift Runners. So this is the second time he's ever used it.
Yeah. And so the Catman comes up. He is like not doing too hot. He's broken up, and he's like, "Oh, is this another trap?" And he's like, "No, I have her here for you." And as he's walking, he's like walking into traps. So he's like, but that's kind of like almost in hindsight. He's mostly coming. He's like, "Yes, come take a drink from her." And
Yeah,
so
like
he's like,
he's
"No
so
tricks."
entranced by this tasty morsel that, and his body, because while they experience pain, they don't do it like living bodies. Like it means a lot less to them, and his body's already stamped up to all hell from buffaloes. Like he's been basically dragging himself up there, so he gets caught in the traps, and all it does really, it's slowing him down. But he's like fixated. He's got the sight on her.
Yeah. And so he latches on, and as he latches on, his eyes roll. As Good Stab knows, he goes into like that almost like that psychosis of like, oh, blood. And so Good Stab also bites into her, and he takes a mouthful of her blood but does not drink it. And then he pushes his own and everything back into her. So that way, the Catman, as he's drinking everything up, is also drinking his blood. And the whole thing with this is we didn't also mention this before, but at one point when he does bite the Catman and he drinks on his blood, he like basically is out cold. Like they can't drink their own blood.
How he kind of lost the fight after Weasel Plume was skinned.
Yeah.
He bites him at that point and then passes out. So
Yeah.
now he's forcing the Catman to do the other thing, like to ingest his blood instead. And he talks about how he feels when the blood starts going into the Catman.
Yeah.
But he also feels the girl like starting her death shudders at the same time.
Yeah. And so the Catman ends up like kind of incapacitated, but slowly but surely, Good Stab basically disseminates him. But he also also as he was like, after he drinks the blood and he's like going through the throes of it, he also has other traps cling on to him. And so he ends up going into the lake, and he gets sturgeon, and he feeds the sturgeon to the Catman over and over and over again until the Catman slowly but surely becomes a sturgeon himself, and then he lets him go. And he's a sturgeon. And now he's just a fish that doesn't remember he was a man.
Yeah, and that was the only way he could figure out that he could kill a vampire or whatever they are.
Yeah. And so he comes back forth.
It's more an erasure than a killing, but it's the only thing he could do.
So if you have too much change, one might say, or you steal too much from something, like we were saying that before, but forgetting isn't a bad thing. But in this case, it's almost a good thing. Like it's an overcoming of a cursed history, almost in a weird way. I don't know if you can view it that way. That's kind of like modeled. I'm kind of just pulling this out of my butt as I'm talking, but
when Good Stab talks about eating dirty faces in order to do that is kind of like what he's talking about.
I guess forgetting altogether, because then he'd be forgotten altogether. So it's the final end.
Yeah, and after this, you're like, okay, so now he's gonna eat mice and turn into a mouse and disappear. Well, then we harken back to the quote where he says that as he has consumed the elders of his clan, and as he is the only one who has heard Nappy's stories and can remember them and is yet alive, like he carries so much of his people's heritage in him now that he feels like it is important that he keeps carrying it. Yeah, so that he remembers. Because to not remember is to lose.
And so we kind of get thrown, and it's kind of mysterious. We don't really know how Arthur ends up totally. And we get thrown back to Etsy. And Etsy's like, oh my God. And so she...
We do get one more for Arthur.
He's providing a sermon.
How the fire was put out. Arthur was taken down by the few people who are still alive. And he is fucked up. He's broken. So he is basically going to give his parish to someone else. And he's going to tuck tail and run. And that's the last we see of it. And then we go to present day with Etsy.
Correct. And we're going to, because we're at 3 hours, let's summarize Etsy's part up. So basically, Etsy finishes reading. She's like, oh my God, I'm part of a cursed bloodline. My great 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 so on and so forth is a piece of garbage.
Yeah, and
And
also my
she,
tenure is fucked.
yeah. And so her father passes away. Well, first of all, she burns all of the copies that she has. And
Mm-hmm.
then her father dies. She gets his, cremation, ashes. And she's just like in a hole of depression because then her cat, obviously, at one point during the winter, doesn't come back. And she's like, oh my God, he's dead. And she's putting up Lost. Her landlord is a piece of garbage that's kind of a jerk.
Yeah,
And then she
but
sees,
what is funny is that her cat disappears, and my initial thought is not, oh, Goodstep has taken the cat. No, my thought is, oh no, the cat has been run over, or hurt,
yes,
or stolen, or whatever else can happen to a cat in a city.
yeah, exactly. Or it's also the dead of winter, she says. So
Yeah.
it's, but anyway, she ends up seeing like a mysterious figure, and then in the middle of the night she hears clacking on her keyboard, and there's a figure at her keyboard, and she's like, what the fuck? And of course we know it's Goodstab, and Goodstab actually comes to her at one point with a buffalo head on his head, and he's got work boots on, and he had left work gloves behind before, and he's like, she thinks he's there to kill her, but really the cat's there, and she's like, oh my God, yes, Taz. And so the cat's there, and he's like, no, I'm not going to kill you. What more, how could that hurt Arthur anymore? And then he reveals to her Arthur, who is now a giant mole man, or a giant
Prairie dog.
chipmunk, prairie dog, a giant prairie dog creature. I'm actually picturing the. Have you watched Creature Commandos?
No.
The weasel. I'm picturing the weasel. But anyway. And Arthur doesn't know who he is anymore. Long story short, I'm pretty sure this is the final FU from Goodstab, because he just leaves Arthur there in her company and like pieces off and leaves the buffalo head behind.
Yeah, Etsy kind of says that she thinks Goodstab is gonna wait to see what she does, if she's gonna feed Arthur humans back to human, or like what she's gonna do with this.
Yeah, and what she ends up doing, and we get some voice recordings from this and stuff, and there's some like creepy like back and forth here. But anyway, she ends up just taking Arthur to cut out some of the fat of the details, and she drives him all the way back to like where the backbone is, and because they're not like that far from that area. I guess, and she ends up bringing. Oh, this is like horrific. She ends up going to like a not a Home Depot, but like a
Yeah, and right before that too, she finds out that they have done an analysis on the skin that the diary was found wrapped in.
oh
The
yeah,
skin that Arthur found and thought was from one of his parishioners, but that Goodstab had confessed to giving him earlier. And of course, the skin isn't buffalo. The skin is human.
yes, that's right. I forgot about that. And also, I kind of jumped over to the part where she took her dad's ashes and basically put them on the book so that, like, without the librarian lady seeing, so that way it could like annihilate the book with its chemicals or whatever.
Yeah.
But she ends up bringing Arthur all the way back up, and he's not like resisting or anything. He's just like kind of dumbly following along, and
Yeah. You get a
she
sense there's a base trace of who he was, and who he was still wants to forget. That's probably why
yeah.
he did this bush thing to himself.
Yeah. And so she brings him up to like a mountain area, and she takes a nail gun and nail guns his spine and like his head, and then she takes off what's it called, a handsaw or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah,
and
one of
she
those
cuts off his head.
string saws, yeah.
Yeah, and then like does other stuff with the body, and the body
Yeah, she
goes over the side.
chromes his body, and then she douses it in lighter fluid, and the
That's
foam
right.
is flammable. And then she douses it in lighter fluid, and then she sets him on fire. And she's crying while she does it. It clearly hurts her. And she talks about how Taz yowls, because Taz had kind of become friends with her Tresse, which is like the French word for a long relative. So the cat kind of yowls, and she's like, yeah, I'm yowling too, and I'm screaming, not really because I think Arthur can hear me anymore, but for what this has done to me.
Yeah, because it's corrupted her in a way. I mean, she had to kill her own family.
Yeah,
Um, and
yeah,
then
she's a Felicide now.
yeah. And so she ends up looking up and she sees some of the work. She saw some workmen before, and she sees one on a horse, and he's go or something like that, and he's going
Oh yeah,
off.
she sees a man on a horse, and the horse's face is slathered in blood. And we've
And what we
learned that that
learned,
is the one way that that their kind can make horses not afraid of them, because horses instinctually know that they're dangerous. That is the one way you can pacify a horse.
and she sees him and she sees his face and everything, and how like anyway she ends up putting her hand up like this, as in like in solidarity, and he's like, nah bitch, and he goes off into the
Yeah,
sunset.
she kind of like hails him, and he doesn't hail her back, but she knows that he kind of saw, and he leads the Blackfeet people away, and that's the end of it.
So the pacing for this book was pretty stellar, honestly. At first, it seemed a little sleepy, but it ends up picking up real good. And then, like Elin said, the narrative shift when you go back to Etsy is a little bit of a shocker. But it was a really good. You needed it for the ending to come back around, and it is more important to have Etsy's side of things because it shows that time passage, and how long this has been going.
Yeah, in a sense, I accept that, but also for me personally, like this story is a story within a story within a story within a story within a story, possibly within another story, and to me at times I was like, this is a little, maybe it's a little too much story. Maybe some of these individual parts that are all pretty good, maybe they take a little away from the whole. Uh,
I
I
can see what
could
you mean by that. I kind of liked the multiple narrative like that because I think it fits in with the theme of storytelling and keeping something alive through storytelling. Like, and then also, I think there's a funny, like, concept there too, also with the written journal being, you know, not deleted, ruined or destroyed is the word. Deleted, destroyed, and how the written word is destroyed. So the only thing left is living memory and through the blood. And so, like, I don't know. I kind of like the way that all kind of comes together. I'm really glad we did not get Etsy at all. I think what comes back for me and makes me really okay with it is we don't get Etsy at all throughout the whole book, almost. Because
Yeah,
if we kept going back to her, I'd get irritated.
yeah, because she doesn't, aside from being related to Arthur, she doesn't really have much of a story
Yeah,
until
exactly.
that
Until
very
the
end.
story comes to her at the end.
I'm a lover of historical fiction. So if you had packaged this to me with just the historical bits, maybe not told in letters, but just told as a priest who hears a weird Indian confession who is a vampire and then has to confront his own fate, and we kind of stop there. And we just draw from what we know of history of how things progressed and stuff. Maybe a little teaser about maybe the legend of one who takes no scalps lives on or something. I would have been perfectly happy. Like, that was the bit of the book I loved, uh, that
I
I
thought
had
it
no
was
chill about.
weirdly um not in tune. I think the recording of her voice, which again is a really cool. I mean, I do like that. It's like, oh, that's a contemporary way of, like, you know, recording your thoughts and things like that. Whatever. And it's like another incarnation of storytelling. But the I thought it was I thought I can see why you think it muddies the waters with the story. It's because it is weirdly, I don't know what to call it. I don't want to say actiony or modern or anything, but what happens with Etsy at the end is like, just it doesn't it have the same tone as the rest of it because it's such a different age.
Yeah, but part of Etsy's bit in the audiobook works so well because we can have the extra added, like,
Yeah,
wind and more of a
I did
sense
like that a
of,
lot.
yeah, and that's a clear distinction from the story told just on pages.
Yeah,
Uh, I both read the ebook and listened at the same time, and I can say that if I had not had the audiobook to kind of support me, I
that would have been a real
think
boring
I would
part.
have, yeah, I think that would have been a real
Agreed.
hurdle, and I would really have lost momentum and interest in going back to her especially when initially it just seemed to be about her being like,
Sad.
oh shit, I'm being haunted by Goodstab. And I'm like,
It was very, you know what it was? Oh, it was very Interview with the Vampire. It
oh
reminded me
yeah,
so much of that and those scenes. And so I think that's why I like it, is it just reminds me of that past coming back to get you type of thing.
that's that's funny. Weren't we talking about us reading that one? Because me and Val haven't. It would
Oh,
actually be
yeah. I mean, we
interesting.
definitely should. It's a very interesting, it's very, Anne Rice is weird. She was so weird. Like, I mean, I feel like she's very before her time. Kind of like Mary Shelley-esque.
I see. This is my favorite type of vampire. The vampire that talks about what a loss it is. I don't buy into Williams being like, "Oh, it's great to live forever." No,
Yeah,
that's not
right?
the kind of vampirism I'm interested in. I'm interested in like what it presents in the loss of like heritage, family.
How can it be used as a metaphor? Yeah, I know. I
Yeah,
agree.
and I thought this was a really horrible, but also really meaningful. Like I really appreciate that Stephen Graham Jones has a possibility to publish stories that actually talk about his culture and what happened, and like
And leave an
telling,
impact that actually feels the gruesome level of that we should
yeah,
feel about it, I guess.
because white history, American history, we forget, we forget. And I know how difficult it is for a lot of people of color, and especially like I tried to search for books, historical fiction, any kind of fiction from Native American writers. It's so difficult.
Yeah.
There almost are none traditionally published that you can find. So I'm really glad this book exists. I'm so glad that he has a very live and kicking uh, career.
Following? Yeah.
And like I can recognize that in certain ways, like the book might be a little meandering. I do think it would have been more slow to get into just reading with eyeballs.
Oh, yeah.
But I read 90% of this book in one day.
That is it. Well, technically I did too, because I woke up at 4 a.m. this morning to finish it. But
I
now,
just, it was so good. I just wanted to stay in it, and I wanted to know what happened, and I wanted to
I will admit,
be with good stuff.
throughout the week, I looked forward to listening to the book. It's because it made me feel cozy. It's not a cozy book. But I liked the tone that it had, and I liked going back to it, the comfort it brought me and bringing me into another world. So, highly recommend.
Yeah. If you like sad stuff, it takes a certain person to be like, "Oh, this is awful."
Let me
But
read
it
about
feels
these
so.
people being skinned and such. Yes.
Yeah, it takes a true romantic where you kind of you appreciate the experience of emotion. You like the
Yeah.
big emotion, and you're ready to be faced with things that challenge your perception and your emotions that are difficult to swallow and to digest. And you want it packaged in a horror novel about vampires. Go.
Literature. Now, on that note, unlike many of the characters in the story, you should not forget to subscribe. Um,
Like.
join our Patreon. Leave a comment.
But do join the Patreon, join the Discord. You can sit next to us here and sometimes correct us when we get facts
Yeah.
wrong, or get us back on track with the story, like Chris M is so wonderful at doing. I
Yes.
was
I mean,
actually worried when she said she might not make this recording. I was like, oh my god, how am I and Katie gonna keep on track?
well, it is 3 hours and 7. Good luck to you, William. And good luck to all of you. And thank you if you made it this far. If you made it this far, I don't know.
Leave a bat emoji in the comments.
Oh, yeah. Or I don't think there's a buffalo one, but if there is.
If there is. Otherwise, well, anyway, thank you so much. We love you, our parasocial darlings.
Bye.
Bye.